Good morning, everyone. So, yesterday we finished discussing about all the internal growth strategies. So, continuing our yesterday's session further, in today's class, we'll be covering external growth strategies. So, I think we have covered yesterday all internal growth strategies where we discussed about intensification and diversification, and we haven't even covered all the different types of diversification. And in today's class, let's start up our session with all the different types of external growth strategies. External growth strategies come basically in three modes. One is a merger, acquisition, and a strategic alliance. Now, let's talk about what is a merger and how it differs from acquisition. So, let's start today's session learning about the various features we have in merger and how a merger differs from acquisition. Now, as you can see, mergers can be of four different types: horizontal merger, vertical merger, co-generic merger, and a conglomerate merger. We will try to discuss each one of them as we proceed further. Now, before we start up, let's first talk about what is actually a merger. So, when you talk about a merger is basically a friendly association between two or more companies. So, when two or more companies come together and on a friendly term, so merger always happens on a friendly note, and there should be a mutual consent. So, for a merger or whether it is acquisition, see, there are some common points you need to make a note of when you are talking about a merger or acquisition. Merger and acquisition, I'm putting down few common points here. So, if you are talking about a merger or acquisition, both help in immediate expansion. So, whether it is a merger or it is an acquisition, both help in immediate expansion and both provide long-term advantage. And both merger and acquisition create synergy. Now, what do you mean by synergy? It's a combined power, right? It's as like 1 plus 1 is 3, right? So, it's as simple. Synergy is where you are trying to grab the strengths of two or more companies and you are trying to increase the combined strength in a far ahead way. So, merger and acquisition both create synergy and immediate expansion, long-term advantage, and in both we need mutual consent from all the parties. There should be a mutual consent, irrespective of whether it is a merger or acquisition. So, the points I have given here go common whether you are speaking of a merger or you are speaking of acquisition. Now, let's talk about what are the various aspects you need to know when you are talking about a merger. So, a merger is a combination or where you combine two or more businesses into one. Now, what you always should remember, a merger always happens on a friendly term. It's a friendly association. And when you speak of a merger, in a merger, what happens is when you combine two or more companies, one or more companies will lose their identity. Now, let's say we have A and we have B. A and B are merging together. You can form a new entity like C. Both have lost their identity. Or you can have merge A and B and run it on the name of A. Or you can have A, B merged and run on the name of B. Now, what you need to understand when a merger happens is one company or more will lose their identity. That's the basic point you need to remember when a merger happens. One or more company will lose their identity. And a merger always creates a synergy factor. Now, why a merger creates a synergy factor? Because we always have to catch up one point. When a merger happens, A and B's resources are combined together. They are going to share, right? all their resources will be shared, all the facilities will be shared, and even their profits would be shared, right? So whatever manpower they have, resources they have, facilities they have, the channels they have, the skills they have, every aspect, every resource would be shared. This sharing creates a factor of synergy. And we can even use the word positive synergy. So a merger always creates positive synergy. Why? Because there is the sharing of resource, sharing of facilities, sharing of budgets, sharing of profits. All resources would be shared. And what we believe when a merger happens, we have to mention this point. Always we believe combined resources would be greater than the individual resources. And as we have just listed some common points, a merger helps in immediate expansion, creates a long-term advantage, creates synergy factor. There must be mutual consent. These points go again in a merger. Now, let's talk about one basic concept when you are talking about a merger. In a merger, what is the most primary difference you need to observe between a merger and acquisition? In a merger, sometimes one or more will lose their identity. But what is acquisition? Acquisition means a stronger firm is going to take over the weaker firm. So that is why we call it as acquisition. Now, which firm loses its existence means the weaker firm loses its existence. Again, when you talk about acquisition, you need to remember two scenarios here. Now, what happens when acquisition happens is the weaker firm will be acquired by a stronger firm, right? Sometimes the weaker firm may exist with its own identity. This can be one scenario. Or when acquisition happens, the other scenario what we see is the weaker firm gets absorbed into the stronger firm, losing its identity. But what is one more prime difference between a merger and acquisition? When acquisition happens, can I say like how it happens in a merger? There is a sharing of resource or profits means? No. Control completely lies with the stronger firm. So one core point you need to speak of when you are talking about acquisition is acquisition, there is no sharing of profits. All the profits, all the resources will lie under the control of the stronger firm. And that is the reason why what acquisition exhibits is a dominance factor. Dominance is seen from a stronger firm. And other points, acquisition also helps in immediate expansion. Acquisition also creates a long-term advantage, and acquisition also provides synergy. These factors remain common. But what you need to understand is the scenarios with respect to acquisition. The weaker firm may exist with its own identity or may get absorbed into the stronger firm. But we see complete dominance of the stronger firm. And one more key point you should not forget to mention when you are explaining the features of acquisition. Acquisition is not a friendly association. It happens on unfriendly terms. Then if I ask you one question, why a firm should be thinking of acquisition? Maybe they have seen continuous losses. They have made every attempt of turnaround strategy, but their attempts of turnaround strategy have failed. Their attempts of turnaround have failed. They are seeing continuous losses. They are not able to survive in the competition. Persistently, they are having a negative cash flow. In such scenarios, when all their turnaround attempts have failed, they may think of acquisition. So, acquisition will itself become as an attempt of turnaround. So, for a weaker firm, because it can get absorbed into the stronger firm, or sometimes it exists under the stronger firm with its own identity. But can I say for a weak firm, it itself is a turnaround. It's an attempt of turnaround. What I wrote in a different color, make sure you don't forget to mention them. So that is how we can give a few points of comparison between a merger and acquisition. Now, as you can see here, I have few points of comparison to discuss more on merger and acquisition. Now, let's talk about first definition. What do you have under merger? It's a combination of two or more firms, but it happens always on friendly terms. But acquisition is where a stronger firm acquires a weaker firm, but it happens on unfriendly terms. Now let's talk about the nature of relationship. As I mentioned, it happens always with mutual consent. Next, a new entity can be created, but I have given you other possible scenarios as well when a merger happens. One firm or more firms can lose their identity. But no, in an acquisition, is there a formation of new entity? Means no. Stronger firm will continue to exist. The weaker firm may get absorbed into the stronger firm or may exist with its own identity. Now, mergers, usually smaller size companies merge. And with acquisition, a larger firm usually acquires a small or weaker firm. Let's talk about control. When merger happens, control is shared with or between all the parties and entities. But with acquisition, control exists solely with stronger firm. Ownership. Shares of the new entity will be given to all shareholders of all the entities. But here, the acquired company shareholders only will have the profits and shares. I have few examples here. One example given for a merger, Vodafone and Idea. And one more merger which you have seen is acquisition, Jaguar Land, Tata Motors acquiring it. Done? So hope this concept should be clear enough. How a merger and acquisition can be compared. And I have given you few common points, but always remember, both should be on mutual consent. Both create a long-term advantage, synergy. Yes. So let's talk, as we are done with external growth strategies of merger and acquisition. Now let's get back to discuss the different types of mergers. Now what are the different types of mergers you observe here? A horizontal merger, vertical merger, co-generic merger, conglomerate merger, right? So now let's talk about each point or each type of merger in detail. So let's take a clean space and put down the points here. So now what is the first merger we are talking about? Let's say we first talk about a horizontal merger. Now, yesterday when we discussed intensification and diversification under internal growth strategies, you learned the same concept over there. What is horizontal diversification, concentric, vertical concept? We discussed there. It looks almost similar, so you are not getting a feel as if you are learning completely a new concept. You can easily connect to this. So what is a horizontal merger? It's a merger that happens between two or more business entities which are in the same business, right? That's what we discussed even yesterday. So this is a merger that happens between entities which are in same business. And mostly they should be in the same stage of the supply chain. Then we call it as horizontal merger. Then you should ask one question, why a horizontal merger and why is it beneficial? When horizontal merger happens, we can see lot of enhancements happening. Now, what gets enhanced means your production capacity gets enhanced or your manufacturing skills will improve, your distribution channels will get strengthened, and moreover, you will have a tighter control on your supply chain. You can strengthen the supply chain, you can strengthen your production capacity, your manufacturing skills will improve. So overall, when a horizontal merger happens, for all the business entities in the merger, enhancements are observed. And moreover, you can also minimize or try to reduce. When merger happens, horizontal merger, lot of duplication is reduced. Now, what do you mean by duplication? Installation efforts, hardware, software, manpower, similar activities, they are in the same business. Why they should have duplication? So installation efforts, see, like lot of installation might get duplicated, okay? And manpower, maybe we can see duplication in manpower. We can see duplication in lot of other resources. So when so much of duplication can be reduced, obviously lot of costs and expenses also can be reduced. So horizontal merger helps in, this is the reason why business entities can think of horizontal merger. They can have good control on supply chain, their distribution channel and systems can be strengthened, and they can minimize lot of duplication and the cost factor. Now, the point comes, so now to give you the best example of horizontal merger, which you can even confidently quote in your exam, you must be aware there were State Bank of Hyderabad, State Bank of Mysore, and State Bank of Patiala. They all like this, so on and so on forth. They are got merged into State Bank of India. So can I say this is a horizontal merger? So because of merging like this, their manpower, their resource requirements, their operations efficiency has improved, but duplication and costs have greatly reduced. And they can offer better banking services to their customers. So this is one best example you can quote for horizontal merger. Shall we go ahead and proceed with the next concept? As we are done with horizontal merger, let's go ahead and discuss our next type of merger, which comes as vertical merger. Now, as you know, we discussed yesterday. Can you try to have a quick recap on the concepts? When a vertical merger happens, vertical merger is you have to be in the same supply chain, but you don't have to be on the same stage of the supply chain. We discussed yesterday that vertical merger can be in two modes, like it can be a forward integration or it can be a backward integration. Forward merger or backward merger. Let's try to quickly recap the concept. What is the forward merger? You are trying to merge two business entities. One might be in the retail business, one might be in the input provider. Suppliers are nothing but input providers, right? So they might be in the business of input provider. Now, what do you mean by a forward merger? You are trying to merge input provider with retail. So ultimately, it's a merger that happens between two business entities which are in the different stage of supply chain. So whether it is forward or backward, you are trying to merge entities which are in input provider business and retail business. I have couple of examples here. We'll try to look out and try to understand. So this is now you tell me, I'll just show you the example and you try to quote which merger does it come under. Zomato and Blinkit for supply chain advantage. They are in the same stage of supply chain or different stage. First analyze that factor. So it must be a horizontal merger. Now I have one more here. Reliance Industries RIL and Reliance Petroleum Limited. Right. Now RIL was primarily engaged in refining petrochemicals. RPL was focused on producing petroleum products. Now, by merging RIL with RPL, supply chain has been strengthened. Now, this comes under which merger? Vertical which merger? I know it's vertical merger. Yes. Forward or backward? Depends on which got merged into what, right? Suppose if RPL is merging with RIL. Got my point? Got my point? Yes. Depends on which merges with what. You can quote it as under forward merger or backward. Shall we go ahead and take a look at one more example of vertical merger? So this is an example of backward integration. Steel Authority of India Limited, SAIL, which is one of the most known, right? Most, can I say it's the brand of India sometimes, like Amul, right? SAIL. So it got merged with iron ore mining subsidiaries. So can I say this is a backward merger? Because they are merging with input providers. Done? So that is how we have seen a couple of examples, and just take a look at forward integration. With that, we will complete both horizontal and vertical merger. So we have Indian Oil Corporation setting up its own petrol pumps. So what is it? Forward. Setting up its own petrol pumps, they are trying to interact directly with customers. Setting up their own outlets, right? Direct access to end customers. This is the point you need to capture. So who are in the business of, who are into refining crude oil, have set up their own petrol pumps to have direct access with customers. So this is the best example you can quote for forward integration. Are we clear with this? So you are clear with horizontal merger and vertical merger. So that's the most common point of confusion to understand how do you differentiate horizontal and vertical merger. So please understand one point: for horizontal merger to happen, all the business entities must be in the same stage of supply chain. Vertical merger, you are in the same supply chain but can be at different stages. Hope it's clear with the concept. So we have completed horizontal merger and vertical merger. Now let's talk about the next merger. So hope examples are clear. You're clear with the concept now? Yes. Now let's talk about our next merger, which is the third one, which goes as co-generic merger. Now, what do you mean by co-generic merger? Now, can you tell me what is a horizontal merger? Let's get back to that. Let's redefine what is horizontal merger. Give me a one-line answer for this. It's a merger that happens between who are in same business. But co-generic merger, you will have to just change a minute change in your definition. It's a merger that happens between business entities who are in related business. They are in related business, not same business. They must be in related business. Then you call it as co-generic merger. Are we good with this? Now, you must be aware of one example I can give for co-generic merger. You all are aware of PepsiCo, right? Merged with Quaker Oats. Quaker. I don't know you have heard about it, but we consumed it a lot. So, but I'm not sure for your age slab and for your era, was it there still? So, PepsiCo got merged with Quaker Oats. Both are in not same business, but related business, right? So that's how we talk about a co-generic merger. Now, you will tell me the last one, as we finished this concept yesterday, the last merger you need to talk about is a conglomerate merger. Conglomerate merger happens usually between business entities who are into completely different businesses. There is no common thread of link in terms of, see, you don't find in any way, there is no commonality in terms of products. There is no commonality in terms of resources, in terms of channels. You don't find commonality in terms of technology. There is no commonality in terms of customers. So that is what is a merger, which is called as a conglomerate merger. For conglomerate merger, the best example what I can give is Tata Group merging with Tetley. Tetley you all know, right? You all consume? Not into that? Okay. So Tata merging with Tetley, that's one example what we can give for a conglomerate merger. Are they into same business? No. And yesterday I gave couple of more examples. Now, one more example for conglomerate merger, which you can remember easily and quote in your exam, easy to remember. We all have seen Microsoft merging with LinkedIn, right? So Microsoft is completely into software sector and LinkedIn is actually a social media platform. There is no much of commonality between them. Such mergers that happen when there is no commonality, we call it as conglomerate merger. So hope it's clear. So we are done with all external growth strategies in terms of mergers and acquisitions, and we have completed all the different types of mergers. Horizontal should be in the same business. Vertical, they are in the same supply chain but at different stages. It can be forward integration or backward integration. Co-generic merger between business entities who are in related business. Conglomerate merger is completely disjoint. You don't find any common thread of link come what may between business entities which got merged. Hope it's clear. Shall we talk about the next external growth strategy? Yes, before we move further, I have few examples here, as you can see. So, a merger that happened between Tata Group and Air India. What merger is this? Air India is into aviation. Conglomerate because they are completely disjoint. Next, we have Aditya Group and Idea. Idea is into telecommunication. Aditya Group is into multiple businesses, but it started with basically. So that is also a best example you can give for conglomerate merge. Are we good? So we will next talk about, let's couple of examples we will go through as we are done with discussing the concept. Now the next external growth strategy we have to cover will be a strategic alliance. Right? Now, what is a strategic alliance? Strategic alliance is usually considered as a friendly partnership. A friendly partnership that happens between business entities which have common objectives. So, it is usually an alliance that happens between business entities who must be having or sharing common objectives. See, an alliance usually is not that fruitful if your objectives are not going common. So, you must be having some common objectives, then you can think of forming a partnership. And purely, it's temporary. Alliances are usually not considered to be permanent. Alliances are always purely temporary. Why? Because a strategic alliance exists only till the time the purpose is achieved. Once the purpose is achieved, this no more exists. So, strategic alliances are friendly partnerships. They usually happen always on friendly terms between business entities who share common objectives, or they must be sharing a common purpose. And usually they are temporary. As I repeat again, these are not for maybe permanent cause. These are only till the time the purpose is achieved. Are we good with this? Now, let's talk about when you speak of a strategic alliance. Yes, here. So this is how we talk about strategic alliance. So we discussed about what is strategic alliance. Now let's talk about few advantages of strategic alliance. Mark it up, important for your exam. So what are the advantages of strategic alliance? We have seen some organizational benefits. So suppose like when A allies with B, let's say, the skills of A can be learnt by B and the skills of B can be learnt by A, right? So organizations can always learn new skills. So they can always learn new skills and they can strengthen their supply chain. They can share their resources. They can have strong distribution channels. These are all, their manpower can be shared. So they can have good collaboration actually. so that ultimate purpose can be effectively achieved. So that is the organizational benefit we talk about. Now, if you have to talk about economic benefits, the one point you are not ignoring to mention here, it is co-specialization. What do you mean by co-specialization? Each entity is specializing together. So it's a partnership, right? So they learn skills together. Because of this co-specialization, they can increase their volume of sales. They can achieve economies of scale. And per unit cost also can be reduced. So these are the benefits what you see in terms of economic benefits. Now, what are the strategic benefits? Mark it up, it's important for your exam. Strategic benefits means how you can talk about it. An organization, when you talk about strategic benefits, see, maybe if you are not allying on forming a friendly partnership, they may be your rivals. They may be your rivals in the market. But because you have allied with them, now no more you are having a competitorship or rivalship with them. They have become, you are working together. They have become your partners. So strategic benefits is, first of all, you are reducing rivalry. Who is your rival? Who is supposed to be your rival? You are working along with them, forming a friendly partnership. So rivalry has been greatly reduced. And the next strategic benefit, what we see through strategic alliances is, there might be a possibility going forward, vertical integration. This is a very key point. You are not ignoring writing this. So we know already, we just now completed vertical integration. It can be forward or backward. So one strategic benefit what organizations can see, today it is an alliance, which is temporary. But you may, going forward, you may convert it into a vertical integration, which has more permanency. And the next strategic benefit, what you may have to mention, you can always work together. It's a collaboration, right? So new products can be easily launched into the market. When new products are launched, what we say is, yesterday also I have already mentioned this point, whenever a new product has to be launched into the market, lot of research and development would be required. Without research and development, product innovation will not happen. Yesterday we concluded our session with innovation, right? So when we discussed innovation, we have mentioned that research and development should happen. And research and development is very expensive affair. So when new products have to be launched, and if you form a strategic alliance, all this research and development costs can be shared by both the parties. So overall, your research and development costs also can be reduced. Now let's talk about the political benefits we see in a strategic alliance. Now, what is political benefit? See, now you all know Aditya group, right? So they have formed alliance with, see, actually Adani also, Adani group, even in Vizag and all in AP, they have lot of alliances. Why? Because they are politically strong. They have lot of influence in government. So that's what, we can't ignore this, right? So Adani is, why they are able to exist is basically they're politically strong. Now talk about Starbucks. Now Starbucks is basically in US, but they have established a lot of their outlets even in India. But Indian customer pulse they can't read, right? So they have allied with Tata here. And because they have allied with Tata is known in India, and they are age-old, traditional, and the foundation pillar of our country. So they know customers' pulse here. So they have allied with Tata here so that their legal barriers can be eliminated. So usually when strategic alliance is formed, what is the political benefit we are talking about? They will try to ally with any business entity which is politically very influential. So if you are allying with any business entity which is already very established, politically a very influential one, your legal barriers can be eliminated. So this is how we discuss about political benefits. So overall, how do we consolidate this concept? What are the benefits of strategic alliance? We have organizational benefits, strategic benefits, economical benefits, political benefits. Politically, legal barriers are eliminated. Strategically, you are reducing rivalry, you are giving scope for vertical integration, and you are trying to share all your research and development costs. Economically, you are trying to create profits by increasing your sales and reducing per unit cost. Your financial health also will improve through that. Now, as we discussed the advantages of strategic alliance, let's talk about few disadvantages what we see in strategic alliance. So what are any points you can literally point out as disadvantages of strategic alliance? See, today you are on good terms, right? Today you are on good terms, but the day when your objectives are no more on the same line, suppose your objectives diverge. See, alliance is basically between entities who are having similar purpose and similar objectives, but the day your objectives diverge, the cause of strategic alliance will be lost. So you will, the day your objectives diverge, you will again become competitors. And the next disadvantage with strategic alliances, strategic alliance is also giving you lot of sharing. So you are sharing your resources, you are sharing your facilities, you are sharing your, all resources are shared, your trade secrets are shared. So what happens is, it may not be suitable for those companies who prefer price. There is lack of privacy in strategic alliance. Because of this lack of privacy, all the trade secrets you may see leakage. Trade secrets might get leaked. And the next major disadvantage, what we see in strategic alliance, they may not honor the agreement that happens between them. So it's not mandatory all the time you expect business entities to commit to the agreement that they have made. So parties may not honor the agreement. So now, as we go further, so let's give us couple of examples of strategic alliance. Now, you all know one alliance which you have been seeing constantly through online payments, Amazon and ICICI Bank. Amazon Pay and ICICI Bank. They have released a co-branded credit card to enable easy payments to customers. That is a strategic alliance. Now, are you aware that we see a strategic alliance between Spotify and as well as Uber? Why? Because as through you go through your ride, you can enjoy and your music and have your own flexibility to decide which song to listen. And you see good strategic alliance between McDonald's and Coca-Cola. I don't have to tell you about this. All of you must have made couple of visits. So McDonald's and Coca-Cola also have gone into strategic alliance. There is a good alliance between Apple and Nike. And we see one strategic alliance, as just now I mentioned, Tata and Starbucks. So like this, we have lot of strategic alliances that have been formed. So through such strategic alliance, the objective is to provide better services to customers and all the parties grow together and achieve their objectives. So hope it's done. Any queries? Clear with the concept? So we have completed all the external growth strategies. So let's see a few examples of yes. Yes. No, that's not a mandatory one, right? For alliance to happen, you don't have to be in the same stage of supply chain. You may be in different businesses but related products. Suppose you are making a refrigerator. Suppose you are making laptops. You may ally with something of which gives you software and hardware. It's not mandatory that you need to be on the same stage. But the concept there is vertical integration has more permanency when compared to an alliance. So going forward in future, there might be a possibility of vertical integration, forward or backward. See, I'll give you one simple example. You all know BMW cars, right? There is a company which makes software for BMW cars. They are never seen on the front screen. What people see is a BMW range of luxury segment of car. But we have a client which produces software for that car. They are always running in the back end. They are providing software for the car. So that if right now they are in an alliance, let's say, but tomorrow I can make a vertical integration possible, right? Yes. They may have a vertical integration and making their alliance rather than temporary more permanent. But again, is it for a lifetime? Means we can't ensure lifetime assurance can't be given for any kind of association. But it has more permanency when compared to alliance. So here we have one example, what you can quote ICICI Bank and Amazon Pay. Together they launched a co-branded credit card. Done. So that is about all the external growth strategies, which completes all external growth and internal growth strategies. Now, the next strategy we need to talk about is strategic exits. This is our next concept. Strategic exits. We are done with internal growth strategies and external growth strategies. Our next concept is to talk about strategic exit. Now, strategic exit is basically a business entity is taking a lot of problems and they want to resolve those problems, find a solution to their problems, diagnose the situation and come up with a solution. That is could be in the form of exit. Exits could be turnaround, divestment, liquidation. They are also called as retrenchment strategies. Let's talk about first turnaround strategy. Now, there is in your most recent attempt, they have asked you about the action plan for turnaround strategy. You see a question on this. Exactly, you need to write all the steps of turnaround strategy. This is the question seen in January attempt. So let's talk about what is a turnaround strategy first. So now what do you mean by a turnaround strategy? Turnaround strategy is basically necessary for those organizations which are facing a severe phase of decline. They are facing a severe phase of decline and they want to somehow get back to their normal course of operations and want to improve their efficiency of operations and gradually grow further. Such type of organizations can choose a turnaround strategy. So whenever an organization is in the phase of severe decline and basically they don't want to give up. They just want to somehow survive in the market. So they want to improve gradually their efficiency in operations and they want to grow gradually and get back to their normal operations. So they want to see normalcy in their operations, then they may prefer to have a turnaround strategy. Now coming to the next one, dangers. This is important for your exam. Give 3 stars and mark it up. So danger signals indicating the need for turnaround. when organizations can look out for a turnaround strategy, or you may find a question like what are the reasons that force organizations to opt for a turnaround strategy. So the major reasons where organizations can think of a turnaround strategy, continuously they are seeing losses. So there is no change in the graph. The graph is gradually dropping and dropping. So continuously they are having losses, and that too severe loss. And continuously they are seeing a negative cash flow. And all their facilities, whatever facilities they have, they are seeing a gradual deterioration in their facilities. So their facilities are gradually deteriorating. Their resources are not put into usage. We are not finding any optimal usage in resources. Or at least they have strong leadership, means the factor is again no. They don't even have strong leadership. We observe lot of mismanagement. And one point you will not ignore mentioning this, overstaffing. Now, what do you mean by overstaffing? They have more manpower than actually what is required. They don't need. So what happens when you are unnecessarily having more? It's economically a burden. Other than that, managing staff, training them, allocating tasks to them, appropriate allocation of tasks, you won't see credibility in any of these. So that becomes very hard to manage. So mismanagement and overstaffing, these are also major reasons where organizations can think of turnaround strategy. Are we good till here? So you understood the basics of it, right? What is turnaround and when organizations might think of a turnaround strategy. Now let's talk about the action plan for turnaround strategy. We have 5 steps that are part of the turnaround strategy. I will try to give you the logical crisp points, flow of points, so that it becomes easy to revise for your exam. Now, the first step of turnaround strategy, you start with assessment of problems. Now, what do you mean by assessment of problems? You try to identify the problems. Is it enough if you try to identify the problem and stop there? Means you should be eliminating the problem from its roots, right? So you should be also aware of what are the root causes for the problem. So you identify the problem, you try to identify what is the root cause for the problem and try to assess what is the extent of damage you have seen because of the problem. While you are assessing the extent of damage, you have to assess the situation, whether the situation is recoverable or it's beyond recovery. Sometimes the damage happens so much that the situation becomes completely irreparable. So you need to assess the extent of damage. And once you are done with assessing the extent of damage, you start with allocating resources. And when you allocate resources, you will try to prioritize. So you can't go on allocating resources for minimal tasks, normal areas. So always when you are allocating resources, you try to allocate resources only by assessing the priority of the areas. So you will have to prioritize areas where you can see immediate damage and immediately you can reduce the damage. Prioritize such areas and start allocating resources there so that you can at least try to reduce the damage that happens because of the problem. So prioritize and allocate appropriate resources. You can see immediately you have spot some weaknesses. You are seeing if you give good resource there, that problem can be eliminated. You are allocating good resources there, immediately you can see some improvement. Immediately damage can be reduced. Under such scenario, you can prioritize it and immediately allocate resources. So how did we consolidate the content here? How do you start? First, you try to identify the problem. What is the root cause, source of the problem? Try to assess the extent of damage that has happened and allocation of resources, but only on prioritizing where the damage is severe, where immediately you are finding some weaknesses and where you can see some immediate improvement. Next, as we are done with the first step, our next step would be analyze and plan. See, you know you are trying to change something. See, when you try to resolve some problem, ultimately, can I say you are planning on some change, isn't it? I have seen some employee is not working good. I see one team is not meeting their targets. I have identified and spotted that problem. Immediately, I will provide a good trainer and start training them and motivating them. So, can I say that is also nothing but a step I have taken to bring in some change so that the problem can be immediately addressed, isn't it? So, but my question here is, can you just incorporate any change blindly without analyzing your environment? So, before bringing in some massive changes, you need to analyze and plan. Now, what you need to analyze? You need to analyze your own strengths, your own weaknesses, analyze what opportunities you have, analyze what threats you have, what challenges and problems you are facing. Problems are already analyzed. So, what challenges you have? So, finish all this analysis and then come up with a very detailed plan. Have clear goals and immediate actions and immediate changes that are required should be drafted in your plan. So, without analysis, you are not coming up with any kind of plan. Hope I'm clear. So, let's put down that. So, how do you summarize the points here? Analyze and plan. Prepare your notes like this in your exam. Mark my words, your revisions are gonna be so easy. And writing, you will not end up writing in exam only these points, right? You'll put it, formulate it properly, frame a proper sentence, and this is what they require. This is what I'm giving here is what they require. Put it in a proper sentence. I'm telling you, you have met their guidelines. Now, analyze and plan. What do you actually analyze? So, we are going to analyze opportunities. We are going to analyze threats, existing strengths, and we are going to analyze the weaknesses in the organization. We are going to analyze the available resources. What resources are actually available? Because you can't plan for a massive change without having proper. Yesterday, I think if you remember, we focused on this point. You're planning for a change, but you should have enough resources. So, also analyze your available resources and try to see what are the challenges you need to encounter. And once all this analysis is done, then you can prepare a very detailed plan. But once when you are making this plan, what you should be clear with is you should always make a plan with clear goals and detailed actions to be taken. Now, what are these detailed actions to be taken? Maybe as an action, when major action, I am going to bring in some change. So, now my question is, when do you take up this analysis? This analysis becomes must before any massive changes. So, do not just blindly jump and change because you have a problem and you need to encounter and find a solution for the problem. You know you have to change something, but that change shouldn't be in a hasty manner. Before you plan for any massive changes, first finish your analysis, then come up with your detailed plan. In your plan, have clear goals, and to achieve these goals, what actions to be taken. Are we good with this? Any confusion? Well summarized? So much of story? Let's go with the third step. The third step talks about an emergency action plan. Now, what do you mean by this emergency action plan? You are going to take some, emergency itself is a word that tells you are going to take some immediate necessary steps, right? And towards that emergency action plan, the first thing you will do is you will restructure your debts. You will restructure your debts. You will try to generate immediate cash flow. You will try to improve your capital, working capital. You try to create immediate cash flow, improve your cash flow. You try to improvise your products. Now, how do you improvise your products? See, you are going to restructure your debts. You are going to improve your cash flow. You are going to focus on improving your vertical working capital. And the most important one is you will focus mostly on product. See, there must be, now you all know, there are some products in the market which many customers don't use, but still they are lying in the market. But organization doesn't see any profits from these products because customers lost interest in buying them. But still products are available in the market. Now, don't you think it's a loss-making aspect for the organization? So what organization must do? Do not focus more on products which do not create any profits for you. So always focus should be on products which are highly potential. Potential products means which create good profits, which are on high demand in the market. Customers are interested in buying these products. So always focus should be on potential products. So on such potential products, organizations should start focusing. So such emergency actions should be taken. And once you are done with your emergency action plan, the next factor is to restructure your business. The word restructuring itself tells you that you are going to bring in lot of changes. The word restructuring itself hints at one aspect, and that what is that? We are going to create change. How we are going to create a change? We are going to improve budgets. We are going to create improvement in employees and their behavior by giving them good rewards, by giving them good incentives, or giving them good training so that they are always motivated. So you want your employees always to be motivated. So always give them good trainings, good rewards, good incentives so that your employees are always motivated. When employees are motivated, they work with more commitment and they can exhibit productivity at the work environment. So we need to create change in the budgets. We need to create change in employees. We are also going to create change in products. We are going to bring in change in the market. So you will withdraw from all markets which are creating loss. So loss-making products, loss-making markets, whichever is creating loss, the organization will try to withdraw. Now there must be some assets which they are not using anymore. So they are very close to disposal. So they are those assets of very little value or no value to the organization. Such assets can be easily liquidated. Now, when you liquidate such assets, what happens is you are gonna create immediate cash flow. So we can link this point under emergency action plan as well. They are interrelated. You can put down this point under emergency action plan and also under restructuring of business. So when you try to liquidate assets, can I say it creates an immediate cash flow? Their working capital improve, budgets are improving, employees morale, employees trainings are given, they are motivated, employees morale is improving, behavior is improving. So you are trying to completely restructure your business. And as a last step, they are trying to return to normal. Now, what do you mean by returning to normal? Now, when we say an organization returns to normal means they are getting back to their normal course of operations. Now, as part of that, getting back to their normal course of operations, they can start launching slowly, gradually, they can start launching new products in the market, and they can start improving efficiency in their operations. They can start forming good strategic alliances. They can think of vertical integration. So like this, they can think of lot of actions to take up so that they slowly get back to their normal course of operations. But this is not going to be an activity that happens overnight. It's definitely going to be a gradual process. So they start launching new products. They start attracting more customers. They try to build customer loyalty. So over a period, what happens is slowly they get back to their normal operations. Once as their efficiency is improving, their operations have become more efficient, they are seeing good profits, they can even think of forming good strategic alliances. So that's how we discuss. This is the most question observed in the January attempt, and as you can see here, let me show you the question. So what strategy they can adopt? Have you read the question, by the way? Okay, it's a long story now. Okay, highlight this. They are not choosing to wind up. So they still want to exist in the market. So they want to rejuvenate the organization. So they want to revive it. They want to get back to their normal operations. And towards that, what measures they should have taken to implement this strategy. So first tell me what corporate strategy they should choose. They want to revive, right? So which strategy helps in reviving from the decline phase? Turnaround. And towards turnaround strategy, what measures they should take means you should explain all the stages of the turnaround strategy. What is stage 1? What is stage 1? Assessment of problems. What is stage 2? Analysis and planning. Then you go with emergency action plan. Then you try to restructure your business. Then you try to return back to normal. Now, can I say towards restructuring your business, your market position also may improve? You are attracting more customers and you are building customer loyalty, because of which slowly over a period for organization, their market share will improve and consequently their market position also may improve. So that is the turnaround strategy steps. I know it's very at times bothering to read such lengthy stories from your material, it's aversion. So keep a summary like this, you will feel like reading 2 more times. So let's finally conclude the turnaround strategy with what are the elements of turnaround strategy. Maybe these elements help in turnaround strategy to go successful. So it's not mandatory that turnaround strategy organization has opted for and it should go successful all the time. Can I say turnaround attempts also might fail? Turnaround attempts also might fail, right? So if you concentrate more on the elements of turnaround strategy, there is a high scope of or a possibility that turnaround strategies might succeed. So now let's talk about what are the elements of turnaround strategy. Now, towards elements of turnaround strategy, the first major element is they go for changing their leadership. So their leadership, they need a strong leadership. So they expect change in their leadership. So when leaders at top level or senior level are changed, definitely it's not a decision that is welcomed by all. There would be lot of pressure internally and externally. So they try to neutralize all pressures. And these steps what I gave now, let me tell you, if you want, see sometimes when you are writing in the exam, you will find suddenly shortage of points, right? So you should have, I shouldn't be doing this, but still, there must be, you get hold of certain points where you can play around with them. So these are points where you can put it under restructuring, put it under emergency action plan, or you can put it under elements of turnaround strategy. You can really have a free hand taking care of these points. Take a free hand. So now when you talk about elements of turnaround strategy, the first thing they have to do is they have to reduce their losses. And once losses are, they have to improve, generate revenue. And over a period, their profits must improve. And whatever assets they are not in need of, they should go for proper liquidation of all assets. And let me give you more points so that keep it as a spare. So they may improve their budget plans. They may try to bring in improvement in their capital allocation. They will try to improve their resource usage. They ensure optimum usage of resources. So you are improving your capital usage, you are improving your resource usage, you are improving your budget practices. Budget practices are also improved. So these are few points which you can keep under elements of turnaround strategy. Are you sure you are following updated material? Are you sure you are following updated? Sure. We'll talk to you in the break time. So that's about turnaround strategy. We have completed. So can you see the points here? Can you see the points I made here? These are elements of turnaround strategy which can ensure that turnaround strategy goes successful. Focus on the highlighted and the points which are in bold. You are trying to reduce your cost. Quick payoff. Quick payoff comes through asset liquidation. You are trying to generate revenue, good coordination, neutralize pressures, and you are trying to even change your top management. These changes when you are making, definitely turnaround strategies to the extent possible go successful. This is your turnaround. You can get back to normal. Are we done with this? Important, mark it up. Shall we go ahead? As we are done with turnaround strategy, so we are talking about retrenchment strategies, right? So retrenchment strategies come in three modes. One is turnaround, which we have just completed. So as part of turnaround strategy, what have we covered? We have covered what is a turnaround strategy. What are the why organizations or under what kind of circumstances organizations opt for turnaround strategy? What are steps in the turnaround strategy and elements of turnaround strategy? As we are done with that, so let's now proceed with the next retrenchment strategy, which comes as divestment. Now let me tell you under what kind of situation organizations may choose for divestment. First of all, let's try to learn what is divestment. Divestment is a strategy where organization is trying to sell off partially their activities. That might be a loss creating venture, not, or the profits are not going as expected, and closing that will generate some funds which they can put to better use. So under such situations, organizations might think of a divestment strategy. And divestment is always only a partial closure. So the key point you need to remember whenever you talk about divestment strategy, divestment is always only a partial closure. Now, when divestment comes into action, when organization has made all their attempts of turnaround and their turnaround attempts have failed. Turnaround attempts have failed, then the only option they are left with is divestment. But is it always that turnaround attempts have been made and then they failed and then only organization should choose divestment means? No. Remember this point. Organizations may directly go for divestment without making any attempt for turnaround. Maybe there is no chance for turnaround. So it's not compulsory all the time that you make an attempt of turnaround and your attempts of turnaround fail and then you think of divestment. So divestment usually comes when turnaround attempts have failed or there is no scope for turnaround and organizations think of divestment. Divestment is always only a partial closure. Okay. Now, whether it is, see, I tell you one thing. Whether you are talking about, because as you see in your material, you will find content for both. So, whether the question in your exam is on reasons for opting divestment strategy or the question is on reasons for opting retrenchment, you will focus on the similar line of points. Please remember. Got my point? Yeah. Question. See, we can't predict, right? So whether the question is on why retrenchment should be opted or the question is on why divestment, both these may go with similar line of points. So let's try to put down what are the reasons to opt a divestment strategy. When an organization can think of a divestment strategy, I think you can give me immediately few points. When organization is taking continuous losses and they have continuously a negative cash flow, and moreover they have made every attempt of turnaround and all their turnaround attempts have failed, and whatever acquisition or merger they have gone for, that acquisition or merger happens to be a mismatch. So they hope for good, but that acquisition didn't work out for them. That acquisition or merger has gone a mismatch. And the next reason why divestment can be thought of, you are not, see, we know one fact that technology keeps on upgrading. And there is no option for any organization to survive in the market, to survive in the competition, they have to go for upgradation. Technological upgrades are must. But this technological upgrades are definitely, we know that they are very highly expensive. And organization doesn't have much of funds to, what matters here is their affordability and they are not able to afford. So that affordability is not seen. They don't want to budget so much for technological upgrades on that branch, so they can think of divesting. And organization believes their inability to survive in the competition. Next point is a very key point. Please do not ignore mentioning this. Now, when you divest, it's a partial closure, we understood that. Don't you think you are generating funds? You are generating funds. See, already you are selling off a unit which is creating loss for you. And when you create some funds there, what happens is you can use it at a better place when you can see a profit. Or the funds here are not put to good use. You find better investment opportunities somewhere. You can divest one unit and invest at some other place where you are seeing much better profits. So, better investment opportunities. Done. So these are the key aspects what you need to learn here. What is divestment, reasons for choosing divestment, and whether it is divestment or retrenchment, you can focus on the same line of points. Now let's talk about relevance, which is important for your case studies. Now usually what people think, divestment is only for units, businesses that are running in losses, but that's not the case. So divestment can be chosen when you are unclear about your future actions. Divestment can be chosen when your profits you are making are not up to the expectations. You have expected some annual profit, but the profits what you see are not meeting your expectation, and you are seeing very slow or sluggish growth. Perhaps the right word I can use here is sluggish growth. The growth you are seeing is not as expected. The profits you are observing is not as expected, and you are not clear what to do in future and how you should shape up your future actions and future objectives. It's better to divest. So divestment is not only for businesses that are only running in losses. Divestment can be chosen by organizations who are unclear about their future credibility. They are not seeing enough profits, or even their growth is very sluggish. They can think of divestment. That is the best option. And the last one goes as liquidation. It's a complete exit from the market. Are we clear with this? Yes. Go ahead and take a look at these points. I just made a set of points which explain you what is the major difference between divestment and liquidation. So divestment is basically, I've highlighted few points, you can go by them. Selling part of business or asset. What is liquidation? It's a complete shutdown. It's a complete exit. Now, what is scope? It's a partial exit. It might be a subsidiary or branch or unit, a small asset, but it's a complete exit, liquidation. Objective is you try to raise funds through divestment and invest in some other better place where you can see much better profits. But liquidation is you settle the liabilities and all the operations. Which company survives? Parent company survives. But here full company ceases to exist. Example I have given. Hope example will explain everything. Government divesting Air India to Tata. Kingfisher Airlines. Do you see Kingfisher anymore? You know, cost leadership strategy came into market and it was so much discussed only because of Kingfisher Airlines. They started telling it's a small domestic flight, a journey of 1 hour. Why do we have to offer so many refreshments to the passengers? So they tried every step to become cost leaders in the market. We don't see them in the market anymore. So that's complete exit, right? Hope examples are clear. Yes. So this completes all the strategies, corporate strategies, all strategies. What are the corporate? So let's get back. I know it's hard. You have taken a long journey. Now, what are the corporate strategies we have covered? Stability, expansion or growth strategy. Expansion strategies come in two types, internal growth and external growth. Internal growth strategies come in two types, intensification, diversification. Intensification comes in three types, market penetration, market development and product development. Diversification comes in related diversification and unrelated diversification. Related diversification, I'll have some points, key points to discuss about both of them. Once I'm done with revising this, I will focus on that. So related and unrelated diversification. Concentric diversification comes in. Concentric comes in. Related, fine. What are the types of concentric diversification? Horizontal, vertical. Vertical comes in forward, backward. After concentric, we discussed. Okay. And then we spoke of innovation. Done. That is internal growth. And external growth strategies. Merger. Oh, come on, yeah. Today's session we discussed it's a merger, acquisition, strategic alliance. Quickly give me types of mergers we have covered. Horizontal merger, vertical merger, co-generic, conglomerate. Strategic alliances, we have discussed advantages of it and what are its limitations and what is a strategic alliance. The major difference between merger and acquisition, one happens on friendly terms, another is completely unfriendly. In merger, one or more firms may lose their existence, but in acquisition, the weaker firm might get absorbed into the stronger firm and complete control lies with the strong firm. Let's talk about the final retrenchment strategy. Retrenchment strategies come in stability, expansion, retrenchment. Retrenchment comes in turnaround, divestment, liquidation. And we have just seen the differences between divestment and liquidation, how you can compare. So that's about all the corporate strategies, one massive concept covered. Shall we take a quick break and come back? Yes. So as we are done with all the strategies and all corporate strategies, let's next go with portfolio analysis. And what do you mean by a portfolio? Every business will have its own portfolio. And we can say in simple terms, a portfolio is nothing but a set of products and services. And in analyzing portfolio, for portfolio analysis, we have multiple tools used. One is Ansof's product market growth matrix. Other one is ADL matrix, BCG growth share matrix, and the next one we have is a G matrix. Of all these, I think rest all you can manage. So going by the time constraints, the important one we have here for your exam is BCG matrix. Let's cover BCG matrix. Let's proceed with discussing how basically BCG matrix is also considered as a portfolio analysis tool. So basically BCG matrix is also used for portfolio analysis. And after this portfolio analysis, based on this, they can take some major investment decisions or they can choose their right strategy. So basically BCG matrix considers two dimensions as you can see here from the picture. What are the two dimensions we have in the BCG matrix? One is market share, which can be high or low. On vertical axis, we have market growth rate, which can be again high or low. Done. So it's actually a 4 by 4 matrix. So we have 4 cells, sorry, 2 by 2 matrix. So we have 4 cells here. So two dimensions of the matrix. On horizontal axis, we have market share, and on vertical axis, we have market growth rate. And comparing these two, we have 4 possible scenarios. And what are the 4 possible scenarios? Star, question mark, cash cow, dog. Now let's see, first discuss about cell 1, that is star. So when do you rate a business as a star category? Now what if you observe this picture carefully? For star category, the market share is high and market growth is also high. So both the factors are high. That means they are already having a very good market position. They can see fast growth. They can expect good profits and returns, and their market position is also good, and their market share is already high. Further growth is also seen because market growth rate is also high. The only concern with star category is, see, as they are in a very good position, to maintain that position, to safeguard that position, for star category business, they may require huge investment because they need to sustain to that position. See, they are already clear leaders in the market. They are already in a very good market position. They are having good profits. They are having good growth. Everything is good with them. But the only concern with star category is they need huge investments basically to safeguard and sustain to that market position what they have attained. And stars, definitely you invest, you will never regret this because there is, for the growth rate is high. But in future, going forward, as we have seen in the product life cycle yesterday, for any business entity, decline is must. You can postpone the decline process but can't be avoided. But going forward, even that applies to the star category of business units. In future, the star category of businesses might turn out to become cash cows. Now, if you observe the cash cow category, for cash cow category, how is the market share? Their market share is high, but market growth rate is low. So you can't expect further growth. So which business units fall under cash cow category means? So let's talk about a cash cow category. The businesses are already in a stage of maturity. Further rapid growth won't be seen. You can't ensure a rapid growth, dynamic growth from there on. So basically in cash cow businesses, you cannot see strictly no rapid growth. There will be growth, but the growth will be very, very modest. Modest growth, but no rapid growth and no major profits can be ensured. So already they are in a good market share, they are in a good market position, they are in a stage of maturity. So what is the best thing to do with cash cow category is just try to harvest. Whatever profits you can make from cash cow, try to harvest those profits and try to invest in stars. You can make more profits. With cash cow, will cash cow decline means further, cash cow might turn out to become a dog. It will also decline and turn into a dog category. But till that time, your cash cow will keep generating steady cash flow. Steady cash flow, good profits, good returns, but not rapid growth. You can't ensure that. Modest growth will be seen because market growth rate is low. But in future going forward, cash cow might turn out to become a dog category. Now let's talk about question mark. Now if you observe the question mark, the market share is low, but market growth rate is high. So there is a growth rate, but the market share is low. So what we need to do in star is now we try to increase this market share. We have to, you can plan, if you try to make huge investments, they say huge investment in question mark is always very risky. If it's not carefully managed, your investments are not well managed, your question mark might turn out to be a dog. If they are well managed, it may turn out to become a star. So usually what they suggest is, do not plan huge investments. You can build market share, but that requires huge investment. But when you have gone for such huge investment, you need to make sure they are well managed. If they are not well managed, the risk you are carrying is you are going to turn your question mark immediately into a dog category. So we have a predictability here. Your question mark, the investments you make, can turn it into a star or can turn it into a dog. Now let me ask you one question. On cash cows, are we going to make huge investments? Right? So on cash cows, we don't plan huge investments. What we try to do is keep generating steady cash flow and harvest all the profits and try to invest that in star category of business units so that your profits can be further increased. Now, finally, we don't have to talk much about a dog category of business. The market share is low and market growth rate is low. This is the worst category. The option that is given, they are definitely, dogs will see a fast decline. For dog category of business units, they lack direction, they lack management, because of which they decline very, very fast. And because of this fast decline, the option is you can either divest or liquidate. That's a quick explanation on the 4 assumptions we have on BCG matrix, the 4 cells and 4 scenarios. Hope it's clear. Now, having seen this, let's talk about the pros and cons of the BCG matrix. The plus points of BCG matrix is it provides a very good visual representation. It analyzes business portfolio considering 2 factors, market share and market growth rate, and provides a very good visual representation. It can be analyzed easily and it supports good investment decisions and where you should invest, where you should not invest, and how the now we can't say a business unit which is a star category always continues to be a star category. It can turn out to be a cash cow. Cash cows may become dogs. Question mark may become a star or dog. So no positioning is going to be static. It keeps changing. It keeps changing. There is always a transition from one category to another. And that visual representation is very clearly given through BCG matrix, because of which even a layman can understand what the matrix is speaking of. So many organizations follow this matrix for their portfolio analysis. But equally, let's see the other side of the coin. There are a lot of limitations observed in BCG matrix. The limitations, what we observe in BCG matrix is, it restricts itself only to 2 factors. Now, what are the 2 factors it's considering? Market share and market growth rate. And because of these 2 factors, many broad factors are totally ignored in BCG matrix. We are not considering other factors like customer loyalty, employee morale, and we are not talking about plans implemented. We are not talking about maintenance, strategic management. We are not talking about how resources, optimum usage of resources. So there are other factors which decide on where you should invest and how you should invest. Customer loyalty, your market position, you talk about your resource usage, you are talking about your environmental impact, you should consider your competitors, but you are not considering all those broader factors while deciding. So we say BCG matrix is very, very subjective. And one more major limitation what we see in BCG matrix is, now if you observe the dog category of business units, they are given only one option, either you divest or liquidate. They are not given any option for turnaround. Maybe if you wait for some time, a dog category might take a turnaround, right? But BCG matrix jumps to a haste and tells all dog category of business units must be divested or liquidated, closed down. So that is only option given to them. So what is one limitation, very fan. Animals are treated very badly in BCG matrix. Now, two animals what we see here, cash cows and dogs. With cash cows, what are you trying to do? Go on harvesting, go on harvesting, go on harvesting. What happens? Your cash cow will quickly decline. Where it has some time to decline, it's going to take a very fast decline and turn out to become a dog. So it quickly turns to be a dog. You are not giving that time. So you are only going on harvesting. And for dogs, we are treating it very unkind. We are not giving any chance for turnaround. So that's one fancy limitation, it's very unkind to animals. Animals are not treated correctly. So if any animal lovers know, please raise this issue. Now let's talk about very important one. I marked here. It's very important for your exam. Post-identification strategies. Building means you try to increase the market share. Hold means you try to maintain stability. Harvest means, just now we discussed, you keep reaping all the profits and try to invest them somewhere which is better place and where you can see good profits. Divest. Where do you divest? Now, after all these post-identification strategies, I want you to do one important exercise here, where you try to increase the market share. Where? Okay, let's do this. Where you can try to increase the market share. Star is already high. Question. Where you try to divest. We have 4 post-identification strategies. Build, hold, harvest, liquidate. Hold and harvest suit. Hold and harvest suit cash cows. Hold can even suit. Read what's there for hold. You are trying to maintain the current market share. Harvest, you are just generating short-term steady cash flow keeps coming and you use those profits and you are going to invest in star category. Take out as much profit as possible. Now you tell me after seeing this, because I heard somebody telling hold is for star. Now hold, will it suit star? You are trying to maintain the market share. Does it suit star? Does it suit star? Can I even apply to star means I can say? You are trying to maintain the market share to safeguard their position. They can require huge investment so that they can sustain in that position. So whatever hold you can give to a star and we can also apply to a cash cow. So that's how we talk about it. So limitations of BCG matrix, just now we covered. Dogs are given only one option. It's very subjective and at times it's very costly to implement. Doesn't consider broader factors and restricts itself only to 2 factors, that is market growth rate and market share. But to take your investment decisions and to choose your strategies, there are other broader factors which must be considered, which is not done in BCG matrix. Just take a look at limitation. There is overemphasis only on market share and market growth. Costly. Dogs are given option to exit too quickly. Because of these limitations in BCG matrix, where we are not considering broader factors, we go to this GE Light model, which is based purely on traffic light model, where we also consider broader factors unlike BCG matrix. But that's very easy for you. You can just go through and revise yourself. I don't have to discuss that. We have much other concepts to cover. Make a note of these limitations. These are the limitations of BCG matrix. So I think at this juncture, we can keep chapter 4 on hold. With this, we can move to the next chapter. I want to take up 5th chapter, which is also important for your exam. Yes. It's taken. We'll move to the next one. Taken care. Just make sure your presentation orients towards these points. You are really fulfilled the task. You met their expectations. So we'll conclude 4th chapter here. So and go ahead with the 5th one. It's a big question. Will help you to identify. I've highlighted. You can just identify which retrenchment strategy they can go for. Okay, it's a prominent group of companies. So this is the group of companies. In 2020, the business is dealing in product nota. In evaluating and contributing to its portfolio, it was observed that product nota is not contributing as it is expected and rather causing a financial duress. After identifying apparent problem area in the year 2023, the emphasis was placed on change in management. So please focus on this. What they have done? Change in management, improvement in internal efficiency. However, further evaluation in the year 2024, it was observed even after due emphasis, positive outcome is not there. And in turn, the company decided to get rid of the business related to the product note. Now, they want you to identify and explain which retrenchment strategy have they gone for in 23 and in 24. Just tell me that. In the year 2023, it's a turnaround. And in the year 2024, they are a group of companies, right? They are now get rid of the business on nota. Now you will tell me whether it is divestment or liquidation. Think and answer. Good. Good. Just now, what you need to focus is it's a prominent group of companies and they are only exiting from product nota. They are not exiting as a company. We learned, right? Parent company continues to exist in divestment. That is why I held a table where you can compare divestment and liquidation. When you divest, parent company continues to exist. But in liquidation, the whole company completely ceases. Right? Remember that point. So it's not a liquidation here, it's a divestment. And further, I'm sure you can see what's more important is you identifying the right option. If your option identified goes wrong, however best you are explaining the things further, it's into your efforts are in drain. So you have to make sure you explain liquidation in the best way possible, but your option chosen itself is wrong, right? So that's about it. So shall we move ahead to the next chapter? So let's go ahead and take up chapter 5, which is one more core chapter for your exam. Let's see for today how much we can cover from this. I think chapter 4, which is the most weight chapter, though ICAI mentions all chapters go on uniform weightage, but fourth chapter, there are a couple of attempts where that chapter has come on more weightage. Even if you have to prioritize your preparation, always I suggest start from fourth. And I made sure that almost all concepts have covered, all key concepts are done, except few portfolio analysis models, which you can easily manage. So let's start with chapter 5, which focuses on strategy, implementation, and evaluation. So now, if you have to talk about, let's briefly to give a kick start to this chapter. Let's not jump to any core concept. Let's start with very brief intro to this chapter. Very brief intro. Strategic management is a model of 3 activities. But in this chapter, we are focusing on 2 activities, implementation and evaluation. But what's missing in strategic management? Strategic management also covers formulation. It's a model of 3 activities: formulation, implementation, and evaluation. Now, in this chapter, we primarily focus on implementation and evaluation. So now, what is implementation? Where you try to convert your strategy into action. Implementation is a simple process of converting your strategy into action. And post implementation, how far your strategy has gone successful, to what extent your strategy has achieved objectives, what is its contribution to the organization's improvement, that can be assessed through evaluation. So implementation is where you convert your strategy into action, and evaluation is done always post implementation to measure the success of your implementation. You know what happens is mostly people think formulation is quite tough than implementation. But the fact we all need to understand is implementation is very time consuming. It has to be very carefully planned. It requires good resources. Lot of changes in the organization are required to make sure implementation happens successfully. Implementation, in fact, is quite complicated when compared to formulation. And through this course of chapter, we will read a lot of how best we can compare formulation and implementation. It's better to have a poorly formulated strategy which is well implemented rather than having a sound strategy which is not properly implemented. So with this, you should have understood the importance of implementation. To make your strategy work best, what plays a vital role is implementation. A sound strategy not implemented well is waste. It's better to have a poor strategy which is better and very well implemented. Yes, let's go ahead and quickly cover the process of strategic management. Strategic management process always is considered as a methodical process. It goes as a long theory in your material. So I tried to put down and condense it like this so that you can understand and revise the content easily. Your learning becomes easy. So towards strategic management, I think in yesterday's session also we have taken up this. The first step always should start with crafting vision, mission, goals and objectives. And what is the second one is strategic themes. For the time being, what do you mean by a strategic theme here? You try to assess them as the alternatives you are trying to build for your strategy. The strategic alternatives can be discussed here as strategic themes, and all these alternatives are subject to good analysis. So you try to develop vision, mission, goals and objectives. You try to come up with alternatives and analyze them, and all these components must be integrated in a strategic plan. Now, what is the strategic plan? In this strategic plan, the first component I place is vision, mission, goals and objectives. The second component I am going to include in the plan as a component is key component, strategic themes. The third component I am going to include here is basically all the steps I take to make sure that strategy is well implemented. And the fourth component is a performance measure to ensure how well the strategy has been implemented. So here we are going to include all the implementation measures. So what are the four components we have given here? Vision, mission, goals and objectives should be integrated in a strategic plan. Themes and what? See, it's nothing but the detailed actions you are going to take to bring your strategy into action. Detailed activities. And once your strategy comes into action, how best it has worked for the organization, you need to have good strategic performance measures. Done? Now, next one, what we need to learn here is strategic management is always very dynamic and is continuous in nature. It's not a one-time process. It is an ongoing evaluation. Ongoing means strategic management is never going to end. As long as organization exists, you keep making strategies. External environment dependency you are seeing, environment keeps on changing. Accordingly, you keep changing your strategies. As in when you are making new strategies or you are modifying your existing strategies, you require strategic management process. Formulation is required, implementation is required, evaluation is required, and it goes as a cyclic process. Now, why do we say strategic management is dynamic in nature? What do you mean by dynamic in nature? You are going to change one component at any point of time. It is going to definitely trigger change in other components. So one component is changing, obviously you need to change other components. This is called the dynamic nature of strategic management, and this is where, because this effect is managed, this is called as ripple effect. You understand the word ripple effect? Now, what do you mean by ripple effect? You are changing one component, you are obviously forced to change some other components. Now, let's talk, for example, your competitor. Let's take some examples here which are important for your exam. There are changes in competitor strategies. Then obviously, accordingly, to survive in the competition as an organization, that forces change in organization mission. Suppose if there is change in your annual profit, you are not able to meet your annual profit line or your annual profit target is not met, then what you have to do is, this might change required in your policies, there might be change required in your procedures. Because you are not meeting your economic target, you have to change your policies and procedures. So like this, always change in one component might trigger change in other components, which is usually contributing to the dynamic nature of strategic management. Shall we proceed further? Now, this is one important concept for your exam. Expect the question as it is, where you have to explain all the 5 stages of strategic management, but we know that strategic management is a model based approach of 3 activities. What are the 3 activities? Formulation, implementation and evaluation. Now just take a quick overview of what stages we have in strategic management. You can tell me what should be the first stage? Vision, mission, goals and objectives. Done. What should be stage 2? Environment and organization analysis. So one is external analysis, one is internal analysis. That much clarity we are having. So stage 3, we are going to formulate strategy, and we know for the fact that we always develop multiple alternatives and we analyze those alternatives and we make one best alternative choice. Stage 4, I'll go in depth again, just will have a quick overview. Stage 4 is where strategy gets implemented. What's important for your exam is what are the key elements required for implementation. Stage 5 obviously is evaluation and control. Done. Shall we proceed discussing each one? 3 steps you are quite comfortable with because we have discussed them in the yesterday's session. So now the first stage of strategic management is where you come up with vision, mission, goals and objectives. Shall we quickly start revising about vision? Vision is crafted and developed by whom? Top level managers. And every subsystem of the organization must follow vision. We wrote all these points yesterday, just quickly take a recap of it. And vision always is communicated to all levels in the organization. Why vision has to be communicated to all levels in the organization? Because all can work for unified objectives. And a vision always has to be well articulated, best worded. And what is basically a vision? It represents where organization wants to land in the future and provides a clear future direction to organization. You remember we discussed one key point in yesterday's session. Vision also focuses on what change is required and why change is required. Change can be seen in the customers, your resources, your technology, your policies, whatever. But what change is necessary and why that change is necessary, so that you can definitely gain a competitive advantage and your future prospects will improve. This is what I can talk about vision. I hope it's revised well enough. Now let's talk about mission and intent. What is intent? Intent always speaks of what organization wants to achieve and why they want to achieve. Mission focuses on the current business aspects, current scope of business. What are their current resources? What is their current technology? What business they are in, what they do currently, and why they exist in the society, how much their contribution is given to the society. And yesterday we discussed that mission always gives identity to the organization. And finally, let's talk about corporate goals and objectives. Quickly, can we revise what are the characteristics of ideal objectives? Objectives always act like yardsticks to measure performance, benchmarks to see minimum performance. Objectives have to be challenging but practical to achieve, measurable, time-based, controllable, and objectives always should correlate with each other and should be relevant to the business environment. So like this, we have covered few characteristics of objectives. I think with that, we have given a very quick recap of vision, mission, goals and objectives, which is stage 1 of strategic management. Under stage 2, we talk about analyzing environment and organization. On environment scanning, you will get to know about what are the opportunities in the environment and what are the threats. And on organizational analysis, you are going to analyze your resources, you are going to analyze your employees, you are going to analyze your policies, your procedures. You are going to analyze your workflow. So like this, internal analysis would be done. You are going to analyze your leadership, analyze your culture, analyze the structure of the organization. So we are going to analyze this. Internal analysis helps to know what are the organization's strengths and what are the organization's weaknesses. So the outcome of stage 2 is nothing but a SWOT analysis. Are we okay till here? Now let's talk about stage 3, where we are going to formulate strategy, where we are going to make lot of alternatives in the strategy. But to develop those alternatives, you need to first go through your SWOT framework. Only after knowing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you're going to develop alternatives. And once those alternatives are developed, what we are going to do, once all the alternatives are developed, all the developed alternatives must be analyzed. On analyzing, you will make one best choice or best alternative will be chosen. Yes or no? And that goes for implementation. Now, after doing so much of analysis of various strategic alternatives, you can make your strategic choice. Important. Mark it up. Now, what strategic choices organization can have? We know that already. It's already known concept. We discussed it. Organization may decide to continue in the existing business. Organization may take a choice of expand their existing operations. Organization might decide on diversification. Or organization may decide on, okay, rather than writing exit, we can try retrenchment. Right? So now, if organization decides to continue in existing business, can I say it's stability strategy? If organization decides to expand their operations or diversify, both come under expansion, and the final option they have chosen is retrenchment, or they can even go for combination. Combination is where they choose 2 or more strategies together to customize according to their own requirement. We good with this? Now let's proceed with stage 4, which is a key stage of strategic management, which comes as implementation of strategy. As we discussed just now, implementation is nothing but converting your strategic plan into action. You are bringing it to reality. And for such implementation, there are key elements required. So let's put down here what it's important for your exam. Please mark it up. What are the key elements required for successful implementation? First of all, when any organization goes for implementation of strategy, what they are supposed to do is they have to change all their policies, all their procedures to make sure strategy is properly aligned. And for a proper implementation on the worst scenario, organizations might even decide to change their culture, change their vision, change their mission. Even that is possible. But changing culture is not that easy. It's going to take very long time. So that would be the last possible option. But even such massive change can be done. But they possibly bring in change in their leadership, change in their policies and procedures. But the end target is to make sure implementation goes successful and strategy is aligned with the organization objectives. And the next important key element what we speak of is the management always should keep motivating employees. So make sure employees are always motivated, because if employees are not motivated, implementation can't be happening successfully. Make sure employees are motivated, employees are trained enough, they have enough skills and expertise, and to make sure implementation happens successfully. Ensure proper availability of resources. Do you think implementation can happen without, when you are running shortage of resources? When resources are inadequate, you can't ensure successful implementation. So the next one management must ensure is proper availability of resources. And create a climate that is very suitable for implementation. Suitable work environment. Without a suitable work environment, implementation can't be happening. And this is a very key point. Please make sure you mention this on a mandatory basis. We have to ensure proper fit between your strategy and the organization's culture, organization's vision, organization's objectives, organization's resources, and organization's processes. Without proper fit with organization's culture, vision, objective, resources, and processes, implementation failure is more probable to happen. So this comes under stage 4 of strategic management, where we have spoken of what are the key elements that make your implementation go successful. And who are responsible for implementation? Middle and low level managers, but ideally we have to mention, not to ignore this point again, allow all levels to participate in implementation. We have to ensure participation from all levels. Now let's talk about strategic evaluation and control. I have 2 points to discuss here. What are the 2 points to discuss under strategic evaluation and control? What does evaluation involve and how strategies are evaluated? We are going to discuss on these 2 lines of aspect. So now let's go again for a clean space and let's put down the key points you must focus when you speak of strategic evaluation and control. First of all, what is strategic evaluation? You are going to make sure how much the strategy has helped organization to achieve their objectives. What change has been seen in organization after implementing the strategy, and what is the environmental impact on it, and what is the progress we have observed in the organization. These facts have to be evaluated. So what does evaluation involve means? We are going to discuss what is the progress in the organization, what is the impact on the organization of some external aspects, and how effectively objectives are achieved. And what change is observed. These factors help in evaluating. See, suppose, why do you evaluate? You are evaluating basically to identify some problems and make some necessary adjustments in your strategy so that strategy always goes very effective. And towards controlling this, how is a strategy evaluated? So now take down very carefully, how are you going to evaluate your strategy? You are going to map. How you are going to map means you are going to map your strategy to the industry conditions. So what we are going to do? We are going to map or align your strategy with industry conditions. If there are two possible scenarios, when you try to map your strategy to industry conditions, we have two possible scenarios. What is the first possible scenario? You might be seeing a perfect fit. Now, what do you mean by a perfect fit here? Your strategy is very perfectly aligned to the industry conditions. So that means what? You don't have to make any massive changes in your strategy. Small or little fine tuning would be enough. So you can go on with fine tuning your strategies. Go on making some incremental adjustments, small minor changes to keep bringing some improvisation in your strategy. Other than that, nothing much would be required. The other possible scenario is no proper alignment. Your strategy doesn't align with industry conditions. When strategy doesn't align with industry conditions, what you must be doing then definitely lot of corrections and adjustments are required in your strategy, and sometimes we may even go for complete reformulation of strategies. That would be necessary. Now, let's try to continue this further. Why there is no proper alignment? Why a strategy may not be aligning with industry conditions? There are again two. I'm going by the question why. Why you are not seeing alignment between strategy and industry conditions? There might be two causes for this problem. One is your strategy is poor. Other one is strategy is good, but execution or implementation of the strategy is poor. Or the third possible scenario is the worst scenario, both. That means what? Strategy is poor and your implementation methods or an approach is also poor. Comfortable with this? So we have completed with this all the 5 stages of strategic management. Good till here? So can you tell me what are all the 5 stages we have covered? In stage 1, we are going to draft vision, give few points of vision which I have revised, mission, goals and objectives, and you will explain few characteristics of ideal objectives. That being taken care. Under stage 2, what are we gonna do? Analysis of environment and organization, which is both external and internal. What is the outcome from stage 2? A SWOT analysis, which can be used to formulate your strategy and develop multiple alternatives, analyze those alternatives and make a best choice. And what could be the choice? What could be your choice? You may continue in your existing business. You may go for expanding your operations. You may go for diversification, or you may decide on exit, liquidation, retrenchment. So the options you have gone for is stability, expansion, retrenchment, or even we can go for combination. What is stage 4? You go for implementation of the strategy. Give me any 5 key elements necessary for implementation. Strong leadership. See, so many elements I have written here. So everywhere, let me circle this. Who is playing a key role? Management, right? So what is the most prominent element that makes your implementation successful is you need to have strong leadership who can motivate employees, make sure employees are skilled and having good expertise, ensure proper fit, change your policies and procedures, ensure proper availability of resources, and ensure proper fit between your strategy and various elements of organization. And what's most important is a suitable work environment. And finally, stage 5, we evaluate. How do we evaluate? How do we evaluate a strategy? By mapping it with industry conditions. If proper alignment is observed, just fine tune your strategy. Proper alignment is not there, you can go making on some corrections and adjustments and perhaps reformulation as well. Why this problem may happen? Poor strategy, poor execution, or both. So revise this key concept. Why I have taken up one more revision? It's a very dry theory part and hard to remember, hard to revise. And this, see the material, you get some tingling sensation, it's very aversive at times. So well summarized, you feel like reading it. So now you must get some clarity on what this concept talks about. Shall we proceed with the next concept? Now, this is one more. I have pulled key concepts for your exam where you predict these questions. We are talking about strategy formulation, and that too which strategy formulation? Corporate strategy. We finished all corporate strategies already in the previous chapter. Hope you still carry them. And forming such corporate strategies requires two types of planning. What are the two types of planning? Strategic planning and operational planning. I gave a quick statement there which stands the primary distinction between strategic planning and operational planning. Strategic planning is long-term and directional, whereas operational planning is short-term and functional. Not to ignore mentioning this. And let's proceed further, giving more points of comparison between strategic planning and operational planning. Now, let me go on asking few questions. I'm expecting answers from you. If not, I'm here to take care. Do not worry. Strategic planning is the key responsibility of which level of management? Top level. So let's put down that point. Strategic planning is usually the responsibility of senior level managers working at top level. Strategic planning always gives long-term direction. A good, strong strategic plan always guarantees long-term success and long-term growth. And one more benefit of having a proper strategic planning done, we have very clear objectives and we have very clear future direction. And the next key point to focus on, by looking at a strategic plan, we can make out strategic planning will tell you where organization wants to be in future. Maybe in next 3 years, in next 5 years, what position organization is targeting at. So where organization wants to be. This is a very key element we need to be talking about when we talk about strategic planning. The next one, strategic planning also primarily deals with resources. So the major element of strategic planning is how resources should be dealt. So resources, how they should be acquired and how resources have to be allocated, how the resources have to be put to the best use, avoiding wastage, and how resources have to be disposed. This is also one critical element that forms part of strategic plan. Now, if I give a statement, strategic planning also helps management in decision making, would I be wrong? No, right? Strategic planning also helps in decision making. So let's continue further. Strategic planning also helps in decision making. What type of decisions means? Interactive and overlapping decisions. Now, what do you mean by interactive and overlapping decisions? Now, no decision will be taken only by, see, whenever they are taking a decision, yesterday we have discussed about bottom-up approach. Though they are allowing all levels of managers to participate and consulting them before finalizing on any one decision, but final approval always should come from senior level managers, right? So even thinking of such bottom-up approach, can I say decisions are taken consulting all managers? So it's interactive and overlapping. So now what do you mean by overlapping? One manager might say, further, now let's take the current situation. Right now, war is going on. We are not sure how much we can meet the customer's demand. The situation might turn out to be unpredictable. So one manager might say, let's keep additional stock, buffer stock. But one manager might say, I don't have a sufficient budget for that. So they are contravening and overlapping decisions. So they might come up with different decisions, but at the end they interact, collaborate together and finalize on one decision. So strategic planning helps in decision making which are interactive and overlap. This is how we talk about, and yes, definitely one more point. Strategic planning helps to develop long-term strategies. Again, draw a circle around this so that you don't forget mentioning. Develop long-term strategies. Now let's speak the other side of the concept, which speaks of operational planning. As we discuss about operational planning, the prime point you should remember is they are short-term and functional. Whereas strategic plans are long-term and directional. Operational planning is short-term and functional. See, resource, so let's start with resources again. Resources are acquired, allocated, proper usage, and even disposals are taken care through strategic plan. But through operational, okay, or let's come up with the first point, where strategic planning is the responsibility of senior level managers, operational planning will be the responsibility of functional managers who work at the low level. And with such, yeah, middle level management also might involve, but prime responsibility lies with functional level managers. And when it comes to resources, these resources, they just monitor and ensure there is no wastage. No resources that should be kept idle. So they are just going to monitor the usage of resources and ensure there is no wastage. And the next one, whatever are the current operations going on, these current operations will be controlled by through operational planning, and how these current operations would shape up in the future. See, today you are handling certain activities in a particular manner. And for today's scenario, your budget might go like this. But going forward, next 3 months or 6 months, your budget plan may not go the same. So today you are using or maybe today sales are going in a particular pattern. But going forward, you may bring in some changes in your workflow. So whatever are the current operations, these current operations, how they may shape up in the future. That decision will be taken through, or that activity will be taken, flow will be controlled by operational managers. So they try to project current operations into future. Now, if I ask you one quick question, will operational planning, as it's taken care by functional level managers, will they develop any strategies? Will they do they have the authority to develop strategies and take any quick decisions? No. They do not develop any strategies. Developing strategies will be the responsibility of top level managers. They don't develop strategies. Then what do? Means they develop tactics. This is a very important point when you are explaining operational planning. They develop tactics. What are these tactics here on how to implement the strategy? The tactics here are choosing different methods or different approaches on how best we can implement the strategy and make implementation successful. So at operational level or the operational planning, they don't develop strategies, they only develop tactics. Now comes the next very key point of operational planning. Can they modify the business functions? Means what would be your answer? At functional level, managers, can they modify business functions? Means yes, they can modify some business functions because there might be some routine day-to-day activities, daily operations. Those daily operations, daily targets, they can modify business functions, but they are not allowed to make any fundamental changes. Those fundamental changes again lie under the control of top level managers. So they can't make fundamental changes. So that's how we have covered one more key concept for your exam, which explains about the two types of planning required for a corporate strategy: strategic planning and operational planning. Hope it's clear? Clear with all the key points? I have circled key points you need to mention. Let's proceed with the next concept. Is it okay if I change the scope? Yes. So our next concept would be on strategic uncertainty. One more important concept for your exam, mark it up. Now, how do you define strategic uncertainty? Means some unpredictable, unanticipated that situations or events that might happen and impact your strategy, because of which your strategy fails in achieving its objectives, doesn't go as planned. So any such unanticipated events, any such situations that happen, which is unexpected scenario, because of which your strategy fails in achieving your objectives, strategy fails in improving further, strategy doesn't meet and go as planned the target. That is why it is called as strategic uncertainty. Can you read out what I have given here? It's a well summarized flowchart. So what is the meaning of strategic uncertainty? Unpredictable events or future events that could affect your strategy. In simple terms, you can understand your strategy doesn't go as planned. Now, what could be the causes for such strategic uncertainty? The first cause is your external environment. External environment is very dynamic and very turbulent, goes through random changes. Changes are not planned and changes keep happening. Market demand keeps changing. Industry attractiveness keeps changing. Competitor strategies keep changing. And even government regulations, politically, there might be a lot of changes. Some unforeseen events like economical disasters might happen where suddenly you are seeing a recession. So like this, lot of market change, customer demand, customer interest, that also might change. So these are various causes for such strategic uncertainty. Now, how do we manage such uncertainty? To manage such uncertainty, first we have to ensure flexibility. What do you mean by flexibility? Where you adapt to change. any environmental change, you are not delaying your adoption. You keep on adapting to environmental change. That is the only way to survive. And the next option is you can go for diversification, where you try to expand to different lines of business. You can expand to business with different products. You can even expand geographically. That is where you can think of surviving and managing the uncertainty. Next one comes as monitoring. Now, what you need to monitor, that stands very important here. Continuous monitoring always has to be continuous. And what we monitor here is market indicators. Now, how the market is growing? What is the growth rate in the market? How the market is performing? And what is the pulse of the customers in the market? So you have to track the market indicators, and such market indicators have to be continuously monitored. And on monitoring market indicators, then you can plan your scenarios. Now, what do you mean by scenarios here? You can adjust your strategies or reformulate your strategies according to the market indicators, isn't it? And make adjustments. Now, the fourth one method that is suggested to manage strategic uncertainty, you try to build resilience. Now, what do you mean by resilience? It's nothing but a defensive mechanism. Yesterday also we came across the word resilience. Resilience is nothing but a defensive mechanism you are going to build so that you can survive even in the situation of uncertainty. How do we build such resilience? Is basically you try to improve. You try to improve your resources. You try to improve your budget. You try to improve your working capital. You try to improve your employees and their morale. You try to improve all your facilities. You try to improve your cash flow. So like this, you try to bring in improvement in every possible aspect. That is nothing but your resilience, which is your defensive mechanism against uncertainty. Only when you improve your resources, improve your managerial skills, improve your expertise, improve your competency. See, can I even write the word competency here? So improve competency, improve facilities, resources, working capital, improve your cash flow, improve your employee morale, improve your leadership skills. This is nothing but your resilience, a defensive mechanism. That's the only way we can build resilience against uncertainty. Let's talk about the fifth one, collaborations and partnerships. How do we manage uncertainty? Through collaborations and partnerships. So we can an organization can collaborate or partner with their suppliers, with their even customers, or they can try to collaborate with other friendly organizations in the market. When they try to collaborate with their suppliers, with their customers, or even with other friendly organizations, what is the advantage they get is they can share resources. They can share resources, and overall cost factor also can be greatly reduced. Now, I want to focus on one thing. Tell me, if any organization goes for too much of diversification there, and that too, let's focus, organization has gone for conglomerate diversification where they have spread into unrelated businesses. Is it beneficial or a disaster? Come again? It's not good to diversify so much, but they say conglomerate diversification into so much of disjoint businesses is a good one. Why? Because the risk factor gets distributed. Even if they are failing in one business, they can survive with the support of other businesses. So the risk factor they are carrying gets distributed. The same point you can apply here. By forming collaborations and partnerships, the advantage what they are saying is they are not only sharing resources, even the risk factor can be distributed. So that's one more best way how to manage uncertainty. So to consolidate all the points here, what are the various ways to manage uncertainty? One is keep adapting yourself to all the environmental changes. Next one, you can go for diversification. As I mentioned just now, when you expand into multitude of businesses, different businesses, what is the advantage and how good you can manage uncertainty means, this is the must and should point you have to remember. Your risk factor is getting distributed. And what you need to monitor, give me the keyword you have to remember here. Continuous monitoring on what? Market indicators. Plan your strategies and scenarios and keep making some adjustments, necessary adjustments. Next, you build a resilience, which is a defensive mechanism. And how do you build your defensive mechanism is by improving different elements. Next comes collaboration and partnership. You can partner up or collaborate with your supplier, with your customer, or any friendly organization who share good common objectives with you. That helps in sharing of resources, reduction of cost, and also helps in risk factor getting distributed. So that's how we conclude how to manage uncertainty. Next, let's talk about the impact of uncertainty. All the points are well summarized here. When uncertainty affects the organization, their current business is affected, their future plans are getting affected, and even when they believe in diversifying and entering into new market and new industry, their opportunities also get affected. Are we good with till here? So now to conclude, how do we conclude the concept of strategic uncertainty? What is strategic uncertainty? Some unexpected events affect your strategy, because of which your strategy might deviate from the expected plan. Next, what is the causes? What are the causes for uncertainty? Environmental factors, market, customers, yes, competitors, like this various factors could cause uncertainty. How do you manage uncertainty? Adapt to change, build resilience, go make sure you are monitoring your market indicators, collaborate with partners and diversify so that your risk factor gets distributed. Impact, current business, future plans, and even your opportunities of entering into new industry also might get affected. That's one quick coverage on strategic uncertainty, which is one more key concept from this chapter expected for your exam. Shall we move on to the next one? Under strategic implementation, I'm not covering the entire concept. I want to focus primarily on the differences between formulation and implementation. So we are trying to compare on some key differences we have between formulation and implementation. Let's do one thing. Let's make things clear. This side, I will give you the points regarding formulation, and on the other side, I will be giving you the aspect of implementation. Good with this? Let's talk about first aspect, responsibility. Formulation is the responsibility usually of the top level managers. But when it comes to implementation, we ensure that all levels participate. But primarily, the responsibility falls on the head of middle and low level managers. They take the prime responsibility, but on the ideal scenario, what is the point we have to write? All levels must participate to make sure implementation happens successfully. Next difference, let's talk about the focus. The focus of formulation always is on vision, mission, goals and objectives. So when you are formulating as a senior level manager any strategy, you should keep in mind that your strategies are aligned with vision, mission and goals and objectives. So your focus always should be on that. But whereas when it comes to implementation, implementation basically focuses on what methods we can use for implementation, what activities or what tasks should be taken up for implementation, and what change would make your implementation successful. So what methods to use, what tasks to fulfill, and what change would be necessary. Let's talk about the next aspect of comparison between formulation and implementation. Let's focus on activities. Formulation requires lot of analysis, planning, and decision making. Without these three, your strategic formulation is not complete. Formulation always requires analysis, planning, and decision making. But for implementation, the only activity we majorly talk about is bringing in some change. Just now we discussed the key elements of implementation. Hope you remember. We may decide to change the resources. We may decide to change the structure. We may decide to change our budget, change the employees. We may decide to change our plans, policies, and procedures, but we make sure somehow the strategy is implemented successfully. I don't have space to elaborate, but as I've already focused on those points earlier, so I'll just mention and trigger on one point, stress on one point. The only activity implementation should focus is on bringing in change. Next, let's talk about formulation. Nature of business doesn't matter. Formulation methodologies almost will remain same. But when it comes to implementation, based on the nature of business, the implementation methodologies would completely differ. And in fact, if I'm using the right word, there would be a significant difference in the methods of implementation depending on the nature of business. Now, when it comes to type of organization, again, we will go with the same point. Irrespective of the type of organization, formulation almost would be same. The methods you use to formulate, your approach of formulation, what you should focus on almost will remain same. Whereas when it comes to implementation, implementation completely would differ. Suppose, let's say, for example, it is a profit-based organization, then your methods of implementation would be completely different. Or a non-profit based organization, your approach to implement strategies should be different. So based on the type of organization, whether it's profit based or non-profit based, the approach of implementation must differ completely. Let's next talk about the process. I marked it up. It's important. Expect in your MCQs or very short questions. When it comes to formulation, formulation is always described as an intellectual or analytical process. Formulation requires a lot of analysis, and who are going to tell me why am I writing analysis here? Why do I particularly mention analytical process? You should know why you are mentioning this point here. I don't have to explain you what is analysis, but why it has its presence here, you should be knowing. Why? Because when strategies are formulated, we are going to formulate multiple alternatives, and all these alternatives have to be analyzed in depth. Deep analysis would be required. And to formulate alternatives, though we just write in one statement, formulate alternatives, don't you think it requires a lot of creative thinking, expertise, and skills? So it is an intellectual and analytical process. So which word enforces this point and validates it is formulation of alternatives. Whereas on the other hand, if you have to talk about implementation, implementation is usually considered as an operational or administrative process. And one more core point, which is not seen here, but which you have to make a note of it. Formulation always is measured in terms of effectiveness. Implementation is measured in terms of efficiency. As we got the terms effectiveness and efficiency, there is a very small line of difference which explains how effectiveness and efficiency differ from each other. Effectiveness always focuses on the outcome. Efficiency focuses on the process. How you are and basically, if to help you understand in a better way, how input converts into output. Focuses on the process. Effectiveness always has long-term perspective. Efficiency goes with short-term perspective. Effectiveness is relating with formulation of strategies. Efficiency relates with implementation of strategies, and that too, moreover, efficiency ensures that resources are never wasted. You have to make a note of point, resources not wasted. So efficiency ensures optimum usage of resources. And one point you must have come across of this at various, when you go through multiple materials. Effectiveness is doing right. Have you ever discussed, come across this point, doing right things and doing things right? Go through these points. And please go through this. Effectiveness is long term, whereas efficiency is always usually with short term perspective. Effectiveness relates to strategy formation. Efficiency relates to strategy implementation. Effectiveness provides long-term survival, whereas efficiency ensures there is no wastage of resources. Resource optimization eliminates wastage. Doing right things, doing things right. So that's how we have a quick comparison between effectiveness and efficiency. Now, what you have done, let me give you a quick recap. We started with learning strategic planning and operational planning and how both relate to each other. And then we learned what is strategic uncertainty and how to manage uncertainty. And then we started with comparing formulation and implementation, how they compare to each other. And we compared in that perspective also effectiveness and efficiency. Do you have patience to continue further to complete this concept, or you will take a quick break and come back? Because I have a matrix comparison between formulation and implementation. It's not too complicated, quite easy to understand. Shall we complete this to have a logical flow? Okay. I can make out from your faces. So let's take a quick break. Come back. Continuing our discussion further, as we are discussing on two core concepts of strategic management, formulation and implementation. So proceeding further, we try to understand the linkages between formulation and implementation. We have two linkages between formulation and implementation, forward linkages and backward linkages. As you can make out from the term and it's suggestive of its purpose, forward linkages under this scenario, formulation will show effect on implementation. And in backward linkages, as you can read from here, strategic implementation will influence and impact formulation. Let's get to more details on this. So, how forward linkages work between formulation and implementation? So now when any organization, I'll keep things very simple. So when any organization wants to keep surviving in the external environment, they have to make sure they are keeping their strategies up to date and adapting to the environmental changes. So organization, what they have to do is, when it comes to strategies, either they might be coming up with completely new strategies, or even if they are trying to modify their existing strategies. So whenever they are trying to come up with completely new strategies or trying to modify the existing strategies, this enforces lot of change in the organization. And this change might be seen in resources again, what points we wrote earlier, almost similar will go again. Change might be seen in employees. Change might be required in facilities. Change might be required in organizations structure. Change might be required in organization system. Change might be required in their processes or even in their policies. So when organization tries to formulate a new strategy, or even if they are modifying existing strategy, we are stressing on one point that change is must. And this change helps in successful implementation, supports implementation. So we can say formulation is impacting implementation. So however you are changing accordingly, you will choose your implementation methods. The formulation whether might be for a new strategy, or you are even modifying your existing strategy to make sure implementation becomes successful and you are choosing the right approach of implementation. We try to bring in some change in the organization. So this shows a forward approach where formulation impacts the approach of implementation. Now let's talk about the backward linkages. Now what do you mean by backward linkages? See, whatever at the end, strategies must always align with organizations' objectives, that there is no second thought on this. So what organization tries to do? When implementation of a strategy is done, organization tries to consider 3 or 4 factors. One is they try to assess what are their past strategic actions and what are their available resources. And most importantly, they try to assess what are the implementation constraints they have. Without this consideration and without this assessment, implementation shouldn't happen. So organization must assess first of all what are their past strategic actions, what are their available resources. Know this first. And then what are the constraints they have in implementation. Only after developing proper knowledge about these facts, they should proceed further for implementation. Now, let me tell you one thing. Any strategy which demands massive change in the organization is not considered a good strategy. So it should be causing a massive change in the organization. So what they try to do is, based on this information, they will try to make their future strategic choice. But when you are making a strategic choice, what should be considered? Do not make a choice of strategy where massive changes are required in organization. So many changes are not good. That's not considered a sound strategy. So what they try to do is, first of all, they come up with a strategy. Okay. And this strategy doesn't demand any massive changes in the organization. They make sure the strategy aligns with organization. Even if there is some gap observed in strategy and organization, they don't make all the changes at once. All changes are not made at once. They try to come up with incremental adjustments. And small changes, they keep on doing. What happens over a period of time? Over period. See, you are doing some incremental adjustments for last 6 months or last 8 months, let's say. So that means what? From your current state, without your knowledge, business has already moved to a future desired stage. But did it happen once? Did it happen in one step? No, it happened over a period by making too many incremental adjustments. So what is the scenario here? First, understand what is a backward linkage. Implementation is going to affect how you are going to formulate your strategy. Do not formulate a strategy which doesn't align with organization. Formulate a strategy keeping in mind your past strategic actions, your available resources, and the constraints you have in implementation. Keeping in mind all these factors, a strategy has to be formulated. So with this, you understood that implementation of a strategy is also going to affect your future strategies being formulated. But when you are formulating a strategy, do not formulate a strategy which doesn't align with your organization or which demands huge change in the organization. Changes must, but make those change not at once in an incremental manner. So that over a period, without you realizing, your organization has already moved from its current stage to its desired future stage. Slowly transition happens. Do not expect transition at once. Hope you understood. Transition must happen through implementation, but that transition should happen over a period gradually by making incremental adjustments. Hope it's clear. So this is how we discuss one quick small concept which speaks of linkages between formulation and implementing. Shall we go further? Move to the next concept. Rest all concepts I'm leaving it, not discussing in this session. The next key concept I would like to take up is strategic change and digital transformation. They are very lengthy concepts. Covering all in one session is not possible for me. Keeping in mind the time constraints we are running through, I'm focusing more on the key concepts which are expected and predicted for your exam. Now let's talk about, for example, talking about digital transformation. If any organization wants to survive in the competition, wants to win over the competition, they have to take over their competitors. What is must for them? They have to go for digital transformation. No, I'm aversive to technology. I don't want to use IT. It doesn't work, right? If they have to survive in the competition, they have to opt for digital transformation. But digital transformation is going to be very expensive and requires a lot of changes in the organization. I told you yesterday, I gave you a reference and quick example. When banks got completely automated and digital transformation happened, employees didn't welcome this change. There was huge protest from employees. This is the main reason why change fails. Change fails because there might be huge protest from employees. Acceptance will not be there from employees. So hence what we need to do is organizations have to survive, and for survival they have to go for digital transformation. And we also know the fact that digital transformation demands lot of changes, and you want your change to go successful, you need to have proper change management methodologies. If the change is properly not managed, your change will never meet its purpose. So organization requires digital transformation, done digital transformation, demands lot of changes, and every change requires proper change management. And such change management, one model has been suggested by Kurt Lewin. Kurt Lewin has suggested a three-phase model for change management. What are the steps in this three-phase model? As you can see from the board, it's unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. Again, a well summarized flowchart you have here. All the key points you need to focus on are going here. Now let's talk about Kurt Lewin's three-phase model, which helps in effective change management. But let's know the fact that it's not a one-time activity. All these three phases will go on a continuous basis. It has to be a cyclic process. Then only your change will last for a long time. Now let's understand one reality. One fact should be clear. Organizations spend millions of dollars on digital transformation, and if you feel that change is surviving only for next 1 year, don't you think your investment has gone into drain? So your change purpose should last for long time. Sustainability. And to ensure that sustainability, these three phases are not taken up once, they are taken up in a cyclic, iterative manner. Yeah? So let's focus on the first step of Kurt Lewin's three-phase model, which talks about unfreezing. First, understand what is done towards unfreezing. See, if I tell my employees, I'm bringing in new software, from tomorrow, you stop using the old software and start using the new one. Are you trained? You know the fact? Don't you think it came as a shock to you? See, basic human psychology, we are aversive to change. Change is not welcomed by anyone, mostly. I don't know about your generation, but that's the most likely behavior. So even with employees, you can't force them to adapt to any change, however good the change is. You cannot expect your employees to accept the change willingly when it's given as a shock. They don't have any information about what is the change. They don't have information about why the change is done. They don't have any information or knowledge about what are the benefits of the change. You are telling me use a new software from tomorrow, but I should be knowing why I should use, in what way it's beneficial to you, and it's what way it's beneficial to me. So I should see some individual benefit, and I should also see some benefit to organization. See, without this awareness brought to the employees on why the change is done, what are the benefits of change, why organization must go for the change, and why the change is so important to the organization. Give this awareness and knowledge to the employees, then employees will willingly accept the change. At least keep aside the 20% of employees who are different, but at least 70 to 80% of the employees who are having awareness about the change will willingly accept. And when you try to bring this awareness, you give good announcements, keep sending communication to them, keep sending emails, give them notifications, give them notices about the change, prepare them lot in advance. Then what happens is change definitely goes successful. Employees accept the change, and employees do not show any kind of protest to the change. And moreover, for employees, it's not going as a shock. It's not surprising them anymore because they are intimated lot advance about the change. So that is what is called as unfreezing. Hope it's clear, the concept. So what is the first point you have here under unfreezing? You are preparing individuals for change. How do you prepare your employees for change? Give them awareness. About what? You are bringing awareness about the change. What change is done? Why the change is so necessary? What are the benefits the change would create? So give them awareness. Because of this awareness, the next consequent benefit we see is it prevents resistance from employees, and employees will willingly accept the change. And change doesn't surprise them anymore. And when you are preparing your employees for change, you can avoid negative behavior from employees, like going on a strike, going on a pen down strike, avoiding work, being absent from the work, not meeting the deadlines, not meeting the targets, leaking some confidential information. So like that, some negative moral effects can be avoided. Next down, break down your old attitude and behavior. So in unfreezing, what happens is there might be some old customs. That means what? Like it's when organization was found by somebody, then a tradition started. And that tradition is going on till now, even after decades. But what is the benefit of that tradition? You don't know. You are just carrying because as a philosophy or might be as a sentiment. You attach some value of sentiment to it, you are carrying. But at some point of time, they need to go practical, right? So they try to replace all their old customs and old traditions with new behavior. New customs, new policies, new traditions. They try to replace all their old customs and old traditions with new behavior. And again, it can't be done just like that. As you see, this is unfreezing. You are trying to make your employees become open for the change. That is why it's called as unfreezing. So what they need to do, they may have regular rounds of meetings with employees, try to conduct meetings with them, try to give lot of notifications that old customs will not be there anymore. Give them some time. Okay, cut-off date maybe. After 3 months, all old customs and traditions will be replaced with new methodologies. So give them enough intimation in advance, conduct good meetings, make enough number of announcements, and try to give good promotion to the change. So speak of the positive side of the change. Are we good? So hope this helps you clearly understand what is meant by unfreezing. So can you just speak on the key points you need to focus when you talk of unfreezing? You prepare your employees for change so that employees can willingly accept. And for making them willingly accept, give them awareness, conduct regular meetings, give enough announcements, promotion for the change so that it doesn't go as a surprise or a shock to the employees. Are we good with this? Let's next talk about Kurt-Levin's three-phase model, second phase, which goes as changing. As now your employees are accepting the change, you can go for conducting the change. But when you conduct the change and bring in the change practically, try to incorporate the change, Do you find all employees supporting the change again despite taking up all the unfreezing actions? Still, there might be few employees who do not go with the change. So, your incorporation of change becomes difficult under such kind of situations. So, what needs to be done? Make sure every employee complies with the change, willingly accepts the change. To ensure employees exhibit compliance with the change, first of all, try to, if any employee is willingly accepting the change and going along with the flow of the change, you can give them reward. If they are not accepting the change, you can go with punishments. But either of the cases, it's enforced on employees. You don't have an option. You have to abide by the change. Next one is go with identifying a role model. Now, I'm sure every one of you must be having a role model. Might be a celebrity, might be a sports person, or might be a person in your family. Every person will have a role model. What is the purpose of having a role model like that? You try to follow them. You try to take their footsteps. Now, like say for example, for one Bill Gates role model. What strategies Bill Gates has implemented? Why Microsoft has gone so successful? So let's also follow the same strategies because one organization has gone successful like that. So that's how you try to convince your employees by giving them a role model because they get motivated. So it creates a psychological impression. They get motivated. Let's next talk about internalization. Compliance, one approach, punishments, rewards. You are disciplining your employees or you are showing them a role model who will try to motivate them. But finally, if none of things works, they are even suggesting one approach. Make your employees realize themselves through their internal thought process. So this is where employees adopt new change only by their internal thoughts, their internal realization. So realization is not enforced. Realize they are not luring with punishments. They are not giving the lure of rewards. They are not trying to scare them with punishments. They are not even luring them with some role model. They are making their own employees realize themselves. It's self-realization. Yes, let's go with the change. It's benefit to the organization and may also benefit my own career. Perhaps it's a career growth opportunity even for the employee. So like that, their internal thought process would change. Internally, they will realize and accept the change. That is called as internalization. Okay. The second phase is also done. Now you have unfreezed your employees. You have incorporated the change. Now don't you think it's time to lock so that your employees do not skip back to their old customs and old traditions and old behavior? That is what is called as refreezing. Now, what do you mean by refreezing? You try to make the change that you have incorporated more permanent and more sustainable. That means what? Once the change becomes more permanent, that means your new behavior has actually replaced all your old behavior, old systems, old methods, old customs, old traditions. They are all replaced by your new behavior. That means what? The day this happens, the change that we have incorporated becomes your new normal. Now, what do you mean by new normal? The change, whatever you made, it's no more any new concept. It doesn't fancy you anymore. It becomes your normal activity. Now, you will tell me whatever methods they take, they have to make sure that employees fully accept the new behavior and they have to make sure employees do not skip back to the old methods. They don't skip back to the old methods. But for all this to happen, where your change becomes more permanent, where change is sustaining for a long time, your change becomes normal. For all this to happen, it's not going to be a one-time activity. It requires continuous reinforcement. Must and should word to be used in your explanation. Continuous reinforcement is must. So you have to keep continuing watch. You have to keep interacting with your employees. Keep incorporating the change again and again. Continuous reinforcement. Even if the change becomes normal, we can't relax. Continuous reinforcement is must. Because tell me why. Tell me why. Why continuous reinforcement? One change done. Is it over? We need another change, other change. So changes keep happening. There is no end to the road of change. Changes keep happening. Changes do happen again and again. And whenever there is a change, it has to be reinforced again and again so that it is fully accepted by employees. Hence, we require continuous reinforcement. Through such continuous reinforcement, we can ensure change becomes quite successful. So this is CUET-Levin's three-phase model, which helps in change management. So let's quickly look back on this important concept. This three-phase model comes with 3 steps. One is unfreezing. You make your employees willingly accept the change and avoid the resistance or try to reduce the resistance that comes from employees. Next comes second step, where you incorporate the change. How do you incorporate the change and make your employees follow the change? One is through punishments, rewards, role model, or making them realize themselves that change is beneficial. Third step is refreezing, where you make your change permanent and normal. And that requires continuous reinforcement. Are we okay with this? Shall we proceed to the next concept? I'm not taking up digital transformation. That's a very massive concept, and I think it's not that do you remember this? Easy for you? Easy? You can manage. Let's go with, I want to take up SBU structure. Shall we? Or if we have time left, I will come back to this. I will discuss McKinsey's 7S model. Rather, I would say we will go with organizational structure. Let's discuss SBU structure and matrix structure. Matrix structure, I believe I introduced yesterday. We will discuss in detail today. Shall we complete those two structures? Yes. Goes right here. Now, must be wondering, yesterday we discussed about multi-divisional structure. Hope you still are fit enough to recollect the concept. Multi-divisional structure goes in how many levels of hierarchy? 3 levels. Corporate level, business level, functional level, right? Now stay there. What happens with multi-divisional structure as the organization grows more and more and more divisions get added to the organization. It starts entering into new lines of business, expands more geographically. Making individual strategies for each and every division becomes quite difficult. The organization, let's see what I have here. First, let's talk about the relevance of SBU structure. As the organization grows large and large in size, do you think it's practically possible to make strategies for each division? See, if the divisions are less in number, we can still make it possible. But as the organization grows beyond imagination, massively expanded, massively diversified, and that too unrelated diversification, let's presume, it becomes hardly possible to make strategy for each and every division. So what is done is, they are in SBU structure, what we try to do is, we try to group such divisions. This grouping of divisions can be related or can be unrelated. Okay, similar businesses or unrelated businesses. It can be either way. We group divisions, and once the divisions are grouped, then we are going to go for strategic planning. Don't you think it's far easy rather than making strategies for each division? And this each group of division, we can call it as a strategic business unit. And hence what we say is, a strategic business unit divides a very large organization into manageable business units. Now, what I want you to understand before I take you further to SBU structure, let's talk about few key features what you need to understand in SBU structure. Now, let's talk about features. I'm going to circle it and let's put down all the points one by one. Each SBU operates as a stand-alone unit. That means what? It operates as if it's its own company. It's a different company. So we can say SBUs are completely autonomous. Are we good till here? And each SBU will have its own competitors. Each SBU will have its own strategies, its own customers, and each SBU will have its own manager. Sometimes each SBU can have its own CEO also. And each SBU will have its own mission. This is what we need to understand. Each SBU will have its own set of competitors, its own strategies, its own mission statement, and its own manager, and each SBU can have its own CEO as well. Are we good till here? And SBUs are an SBU can be defined as a group of related businesses. I'm putting down all the cluster of points here. Later we will try to segregate as we move further through the flow chart. First, understand what is an SBU structure. I'll give you an overview. Then I will take you through the flow chart. So each SBU can be a group of related businesses or can be a group of different businesses. But what is more ideal is, again the logic remains same. We moved to SBU structure because multi-divisional structure became hard to manage with more number of divisions. Again, applying the same logic, you can't go for more number of SBUs. Having more number of SBUs again becomes hard to administer and becomes quite expensive in administration. So what we try to do is, SBUs always should be quite distinctive. Distinctive means different. Keep your SBUs different. Suppose if an organization has 10 SBUs, all 10 SBUs must be different in its own perspective. And keep your SBUs always limited. So SBUs always must be distinct and SBUs always must be limited. Are we good till here? And having SBUs, as we learned just discussed, each SBU will have its own strategies. So proper planning, proper monitoring, each SBU can be effectively monitored because it has its own CEO and it can be effectively monitored. Its performance can be compared with other SBUs. We can have a comparative analysis and we can make sure that whichever SBUs are poorly performing, we can motivate them and make sure they perform well. And SBUs can be well monitored, proper planning can be made because we are restricting only to one SBU. But only thing we have to remember is keep your SBUs always limited and distinct. Are we good till here? Shall we proceed further? Shall we look to its features? You know most of the points, just keep reading. We will go through all the features of SBU as I have given you an overview already. So, can be a single business or can be a group of related businesses. And each SBU operates as a standalone unit. They are completely autonomous. It has its own set of competitors. Each SBU has its own manager and more effective planning. Good coordination, good communication, good planning and good monitoring is possible in SBU structure. Larger firms can be divided into smaller manageable units. I think we started with this point under relevance. Now, any confusion in understanding features? No, right? Shall we go further? Yes. As you are clear with features of SBU structure, let's try to understand the levels of SBU structure first. We have 3 levels in SBU structure. First one is corporate headquarter. Then we have SBUs under corporate headquarters. And in each SBU, we have divisions. That's what we learned, right? Each SBU is a group of related or unrelated divisions. Remember this point? We have lot of use with this further also. Now, let's talk about each level in detail in this concept. We have first corporate office, which is nothing but your corporate headquarters. What happens at corporate office is they try to manage and oversee all SBUs. All SBUs run under the control of corporate office, making overall strategies for all SBUs will be done at corporate office. And who will work for the corporate office means corporate officer. Corporate officer works under corporate office. What is the job of the corporate officer is, the authority of corporate officer is, they can delegate responsibilities. Can you guess and tell me to whom they will delegate responsibility? Which manager? SBU manager. We know that each SBU has its own manager. So, what corporate officers can do is, they can delegate responsibilities, tasks and authority also to SBU manager. And all SBU managers will function under the control of the corporate officer. And finally, we have operating units. These operating units are nothing but the divisions, SBUs and the divisions that are grouped under the SBU. Clear with the levels? Now, can you give me quickly what are the levels we have in strategic business unit structure? The first level will be corporate headquarters. Keep this. Under corporate headquarters, what happens is they are going to make sure that they are making overall strategies and giving directions and oversee all SBUs. What is the job of corporate officer under corporate office? They try to delegate responsibilities and tasks and work to SBU managers. And under SBU, we have multiple divisions. Hope this part is clear. Yes. For understanding the structure better, go through this. So, what do we have on the topmost level? Corporate headquarters. And under corporate headquarters, we have SBUs. Each SBU will have its own SBU manager or we can, SBUs also have their own CEOs. Under SBU, we have multiple divisions. Now you will tell me each division can have its own divisional manager. Clear? What you don't see here, under each division we have multiple functional. Yeah. Clear with this structure now? Hope it's clear. Now let's proceed further, and after finishing the SBU structure, we will get back to the example and go through that. Let's talk about the nature of SBUs. SBUs can be a group of related businesses or can be a group of unrelated businesses. Now let's talk about the significance of each type of grouping. Suppose if your SBU is a group of related businesses, what happens is you can have proper sharing of resources and facilities, channels, your manufacturing skills, manpower, everything can be shared. When you have this sharing facility, we can have synergy being created as an advantage. It creates synergy. Whereas, if your SBU is a group of unrelated businesses, what they are seeing as a benefit is they are diversifying. When diversification happens, the risk factor gets distributed. So, even if one SBU fails, you can exist and survive on the basis of other SBUs. Hope it's clear. Other divisions. And always remember, you mentioned this. Always your SBUs must be distinct and keep them limited. Already you have seen it's a complicated structure. What you see in the picture is only half of it. The rest half, it's left to your imagination. So it's hard to administer, complex structure, administration costs will be huge. And that is why SBUs always must be limited. Let's talk about attributes for SBU structure. Now, what are the attributes for SBU structure? Means you can group divisions into SBUs, as you know already. You can group on customers. You can group SBUs on technology grounds. You can group on products or services. You can group on customer or market. I think you remember the same concept we learnt even in the context of multi-divisional structure. So when you are grouping divisions into SBU, grouping can be done on basis of market, customer, technology, geographical location, products or services. Based on these similarities and attributes, you can go for grouping. Shall we go further? Now, SBU structure has its own advantages and its own disadvantages. What are the advantages we see in SBU structure? As we said already, as we discussed already in the overview, each SBU can be well monitored, very effective planning, and good comparative analysis where you can compare the performance of one SBU with another. Your controls are not too widespread controls, not too large controls. They are not widespread controls, simplified controls. Because complete entirely control lies with corporate headquarters, and next level of hierarchy you have SBU managers. So controls are not too many, simplified controls. So this point also we have done, we can have a comparative analysis, very effective planning because you make plans for each and every SBU, focusing more on one SBU. One plan doesn't generalize to all SBUs. I will get back to this as a conclusion for SBU. Right now, are you clear with advantages? So what are the benefits of SBU structure? Come again. I want only the key points. Monitoring, planning, coordination, comparative analysis, simplified controls. Focus on these points, you are taken care. Now, I will get back to this advantage later, but right now let's speak about what are the limitations we have in SBU structure. The limitations we have in SBU structure, it's not, as I gave a reference couple of times till now, it's not that easy to administer. It's very, very expensive on administration. And you go on adding more and more SBUs, it becomes quite costly to administer. And there might be lot of conflicts. Why? Because you are trying to compare the performance of SBUs. One way it's an advantage, one way it's a disadvantage. So when you see why you are comparing SBU's performance, one SBU's performance compared with other SBUs, so that whichever SBU is exhibiting poor performance, you can track why they are performing poor and motivate them so that they can exhibit better performance. But the same comparative analysis might also create scope for conflicts. And if SBUs become more and more in number in large firms, the major drawback we have is duplication. Again, duplication leads to lot of expenses. Now, what we observe is, see, as we get back to this picture, now we have consumer electronics SBU, we have healthcare SBU, we have industrial products SBU. Each SBU has its own products, its own services, its own divisions. But all the SBUs work under corporate headquarters. Each SBU may have their own strategies. Each SBU will have their own plans, their own objectives, their own competitors. That's different. But all SBUs must align with corporate objectives. But this alignment may not be seen. When your SBUs go more in number, all SBUs may not comply with the corporate objectives. At the end, the parent company's benefit matters, right? There might be 20 SBUs, but all SBUs must contribute to the overall corporate objectives. But that alignment may not be seen. So some SBUs may not align with the corporate objectives. How much ever they are autonomous, they are independent, they are operating as a standalone unit. This fact can't be ignored that all SBUs must align with corporate objectives. But this alignment may not be guaranteed all the time. So in overall, to conclude, what we say as claim as drawbacks in SBU structure, it's very expensive, hard to administer, and if the firm is growing large and large in size, definitely it leads to a lot of duplication. And next aspect we need to focus is comparative analysis may lead to a lot of conflicts and it becomes hard to manage at times. And moreover, every SBU may not guarantee to align with corporate headquarters and their objectives. Let's quickly look at the SBU structure. This is the key summary I want you to look through so that you get a perfect understanding on what is SBU structure all about. So first, top level. At the top level, what do we have? Corporate headquarters. What do they do at corporate headquarters? They define overall strategies for all SBUs. They are trying to oversee every SBU's performance and they may try to allocate resources. Clear till here? Now what is the next level before I scroll? Is middle level. You have SBUs. Each is separate SBUs. They may focus on specific products, markets, technology, or even on the customers or even geographical location. We can go for grouping of SBUs. Examples I just gave shown in the diagram. Within each SBU, as I told you already in the diagram, half picture is shown. Each SBU will have its own functional divisions. What are they? Could be marketing, finance, HR, depends on the nature of SBU. It's not mandatory that all SBUs should have same divisions, but it might be a scenario that SBUs may have same divisions. Can't be avoided. That is why we say when SBUs become more in number, it leads to a lot of duplication. Same divisions might be observed in multiple SBUs. Feature. This is the very quick summary. How do you group SBUs? Strategies, market, product, services, technology, customers, authority. Each SBU works as an independent company, standalone unit. How do we say that? How do we explain that? Each SBU has its own strategies, its own objectives, its own set of competitors. Each SBU has its own CEO or manager. But entire complete central control lies with corporate headquarters, because all SBU's performance will be overseen and evaluated by corporate headquarters. That's what is the drawback we observe. Some SBUs may not align with corporate headquarters objectives. What is the goal? Compete effectively in different markets. Are we good till here? Now, having completed this, we are going to discuss this part. You can expect a question only on this part. How SBU breaks away the drawbacks of territorial grouping. Now, what do you mean by territorial grouping? You are grouping only on the basis of geographical location. Your grouping happens only on the basis of geographical location. Hope that explains the word territorial grouping, right? Now, we have two difficulties with territorial grouping. Now, when you are dealing with same product, right? Suppose we, okay, let's keep it very simple. I have two scenarios here. One scenario is same product. Another scenario is different products. Okay. Same product in different territories. Now you tell me, ideally, if you are talking about same product, how it should be treated and how you should make strategies. Similar strategies and similar treatment should be given, because we are talking about same product, similar strategy and similar treatment. But because we have gone for territorial grouping, though we are talking about the same product in different territories, it receives the different treatment and different strategies. But speaking of ideal scenario, same products, though they are in different territories, strategies should be same. On the other hand, if you talk about different products, let's say different products in the same territory. Because different products are in the same territory, in territorial grouping, what happens is, because all different products are in same territory, same geographical location, they receive same treatment and similar strategies are implemented. Do you think it's correct? Both the treatment is wrong, right? Yes. That's the drawback we have in territorial grouping. When you are grouping only based on geographical location, see, ideally speaking, when I have different products, though they are in the same territory, I should be making different strategies because products are different. But as per territorial grouping, because different products are lying in same territory, it treats them same way. Not correct. And on the other hand, if you have to speak about same product, which ideally should receive same treatment, though it is in different territory, but big territorial grouping gives same treatment, or no, sorry, different territories, right? So it gives different treatment and different strategies, but ideally it should receive same treatment. Hope the concept is clear. But in SBU structure, we are going to group on the basis of products, grouped on the basis of services, grouped on the basis of technology. So all the divisions within same SBU will receive same treatment. So whatever lapses we had in territorial grouping, those lapses are resolved very effectively through SBU structure. Hope it's clear. All products in one SBU will get same treatment. All services in one SBU will get same treatment. So treatment is given based on how you have grouped, not only based on territory. But in territorial grouping, strategies are made purely based on territory. Is this concept clear? So now, hope you understood the concept of SBU structure. Yes? It's 12:50. You are exhausted? What do? We'll stop here for today. Now I can take up matrix structure if you can extend for 10 more minutes, but definitely can't finish it before 1 o'clock. 10 minutes wouldn't be enough. Can we finish that? If you are okay, we'll finish that, or else we'll conclude here. You are having next connecting session? Stop here? Yes? Stop here? Or at least let's take 10 minutes and revise on the key concepts of matrix structure. If not in detail, why? Because I have a very good flowchart with points all well summarized. At least let's do one thing. Let's take a quick overview on matrix structure. Now, what is matrix structure? Matrix structure is a combination of functional structure and product structure. Do not get confused what is product structure here. Presume it to be an SBU structure. So whatever flexibility and stability we have, both flexibility and stability features are combined in matrix structure. And in matrix structure, we have, as we discussed yesterday, communication goes two ways. What do you mean by two-way communication? We have a matrix structure. Yesterday we looked at this, right? We looked at this, right? Employees. Now, if you are an employee working under marketing, you will have to report to your functional manager and will also report to your concerned project manager. So what happens in matrix structure is you have dual authority, you have dual responsibility, and power is also given to dual authorities, right? Dual power. Dual sources, I should say. Dual sources of power, dual sources of rewards. Even if you have to get any punishment, it should be coming from two. So creates lot of confusion in communication. Now, if you want your matrix structure to go very successful, you know, what are the requirements? This is one key concept you can expect in your exam. And when matrix structure can go successful? Matrix structure can go successful only when your employees are well trained. You have to need a strong communication network. Without a strong communication network, without definitely proper training and expertise given to the employees, matrix structure won't be that helpful. And moreover, see how many managers do you see here? Project managers, functional managers, and both feel they have same stature. See, organization is diversifying. They are taking multiple projects, they are having multiple departments, they are entering into new businesses, new products. So when they are entering into new businesses, new markets, what they try to do is they go on taking up new projects and they go on deploying new managers. So as more and more managers are deployed, everyone feels they have same stature. But do you think, is it the fact? And when all employees believe they have the same stature, don't you think that we have to clearly tell them these are your roles and responsibilities? Without clear segregation or clear description of roles and responsibilities, matrix structure cannot be that helpful. And between these managers, there should be mutual trust and confidence. These are the factors which enable the success of matrix structure. These are key requirements without which your matrix structure can't be that successful. So I want you to go through some features of matrix structure. Which forms operate simultaneously? Tell me. Though you have the word product here or the diagram speaks of project, both are same. Do not get confused with the terminologies. So functional form and the product form both operate simultaneously. Employees must be communicating to whom? Functional manager and as well as project man. Vertical communication goes to functional manager. Horizontal communication goes to the concerned project manager. The communication is not that creates lot of confusion among employees. It has a complex design. Why it has a complex design? Because it has too many levels of management. Too many levels of management, dual authority, dual reporting, dual authority, dual power, dual sources of punishments and rewards. So everything is shared, because of which we say too many levels of management. Matrix structure has a very complex design. It has two flows of communication, as I explained just now, vertical and horizontal. Vertically, communication goes to the functional manager. Horizontally, communication goes to the project manager. Because of too much of communication, the communication channels will increase. Other than that, some good points also go with good coordination, good collaboration, good monitoring, strong proper communication. You do not see lapses in communication because you are not lazing around as an employee. They're making sure your communication is going both to the functional and project manager. So communication is going really very methodical. So there won't be good communication, good coordination, good collaboration. These are some good points we see in matrix structure. As I explained this, just check through the points. What are the essential requirements for the success of the matrix structure? First, let's talk about extensive training to employees, without which they can't work in a matrix structure. And strong communication network. Without a strong communication network, matrix structure can't succeed. And as I described just now, couple of minutes back, we need to clearly describe the roles and responsibilities of different levels of managers. And to resolve conflicts, there should be always a mutual trust and mutual confidence and good understanding between multiple managers. Drawbacks in matrix structure. Just check through. Confusion in communication. You need to have a very strong communication network. Power struggles might be there between whom? You know the points. Multiple levels of managers. Decision making, who will tell me why decision making is slowed down? because so much of communication, vertical, horizontal, approvals should come from multiple levels of managers. So definitely decision making process will be slowed down. Requires strong coordination between employee, functional manager and project. Suppose if the employee on top of it, what you say nehle pe dehla, if the employee is working on the multiple projects, definitely they are going to really see the mandatory requirement is lot of coordination would be required. Now, one key point what you are not to be ignoring is when you speak of matrix structure, you may form teams by pulling your employees from multiple departments. I can have a team formed from one person from production, one from marketing, one from finance. Like this, I can form a team where I can have employees pulled from multiple departments. What we call it as cross fertilization. We can use the much appropriate word cross functional teams. What do you mean by a cross functional team? You have the team members coming from multiple departments, but these are not going to be permanent. These teams are quite temporary. This is to ensure that you are pulling expertise from multiple departments. Already we are having a challenge in matrix structure, lot of coordination and lot of communication. But suppose if you are forming such cross-functional teams, what happens is you are having expert from production, you are having expert from marketing, you are having expert from finance. They can give all their thoughts and opinions on the project. Your project goes more qualitative and can be finished in less time. And your decision making lag, whatever time lapses we see in decision making, can be definitely reduced. But only thing what you should remember is these are only on temporary basis. Now, if you have to conclude matrix structure, let's finally talk about its advantages. We spoke about the negative aspect first. Let's also conclude with a positive note. So what are the advantages of matrix structure? Good communication, good coordination. Though it is complicated, we are ensuring coordination is happening. And collaboration. And what you need to understand is matrix structure is quite flexible. Why it's flexible? At any point of time, you can add more projects, you can add more departments, and any project, suppose if organization feels project A is not going good, it's not beneficial, it's 6 months but it's not beneficial, going forward we are going to take more expenses than benefits, and it's not at all cost feasible to go further with the project can be immediately shut down. So it's a very flexible structure. At any point of time, you can accept new projects, more departments, and projects can be easily shut down. And how the project is progressing, progress can be easily seen. So you can have visible results. As an employee, you can see how much you are contributing to the project. Suppose I am working in some IT department and I have given some technical support to the project. I can see how much my contribution is to the project and how beneficial was it to the project. All the results are visible. So it gives very visible results. Progress can be monitored. Projects can be easily shut down if you don't want them. Very flexible structure. Good on communication, coordination and collaboration. But strong coordination and strong communication network are must. So these 2 points you will list under advantages and also will list under limitations. Yeah, go through advantages. Visible, should I zoom it a bit? Yeah, increased communication, better collaboration. You have visibility of results and you can easily see how much the project is progressing. You can see as an employee what is your contribution to the project. Project can be easily shut down if needed, hence we say it's a very flexible structure. So wherever you have environment which is quite complicated, very turbulent, it's better to go for matrix structure. For one simple reason, matrix structure is very, very flexible and adaptable to change. We'll conclude here session today. I'm sure all of you must be exhausted with this intensive session. Let's conclude here. Thank you so much.